Chapter 739. Since he was going back, he had to make a series of plans. Plan my ass. Do I even need a plan? If you're not satisfied, then let's fight. I have so many powerful subordinates, so why should I be afraid of those people from the Kangluo continent? 4 years later. At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, Qi Shuwen was currently sitting in his dragon palace and looking at a piece of jade tablet in his hand. This was a gift from the system a year ago. According to the system, this thing could lead to a vast world where experts were as common as clouds. It was a world suitable for cultivation. After Qi Shuwen obtained this jade token, he did not rush to leave. Instead, he thought about it for a year. What were the benefits of leaving and staying? Although this place was small, at least there was a place for him to stay. If he went there, he would not know what was going on and would be beaten to death. But after a year of consideration, Qi Shuwen decided to go to a wider world. There is no end to training. The resources here are more or less all used up, but they are still too scarce. The most important thing was, for such a powerful expert to appear in such a small place. Voidless Realm and South Wuxia were simply unable to contend against such a powerful expert. Thus, it would be better for Voidless Realm and South Wuxia to go to other places and dominate the world. Looking at the jade token in his hand, Qi Shuwen frowned. He crushed the jade tablet. Qi Shuwen and the entire dragon palace could be seen suddenly disappearing at the bottom of the sea, as if they had never appeared before. In a mountain village in Thailand, Ba slowly exhaled and opened his eyes. The changes of 5 years had made Ba look more masculine. The muscles on his body were very uniform and had an explosive effect. Master, we should be able to return now. Ba felt that he was almost done with his cultivation. He couldn't always hide abroad, right? That would be too unmanly. We're going back, but we're not returning to our country, said Feng Lao faintly. Then where are we going? Ba was puzzled. Old Feng said in a deep voice, under the highest god's realm, there is a vast land called Kangluo continent. The restrictions here are still too small, you should go there to develop. Kangluo continent? An alternate world? Ba asked curiously, his eyes flashing with excitement. It seemed that Ba was also a very competitive person. You can understand it this way. That place is full of danger, but it's also full of opportunities. However, it's just a stepping stone for you. Old Feng's words made Ba very excited. He wanted to become stronger. At that time, he would not be afraid of anyone, nor would he be threatened by anyone. Master, I'll listen to you. All right. Xinba, you cultivate well. Master will protect and escort you. Thank you, Master. Master's enmity is the disciple's enmity, as expected of my disciple. The two of us will go to the Kangluo continent. As soon as Crazy Elders stopped speaking, Ba's figure disappeared from the small rundown house. In the office building on the top floor of the Peace Association, Lord Jiu was playing with Xiaobao. This was the golden retriever that Bai Cixin had bought back then. It was now 5 years old and its golden fur was shining. Lord Jiu had fed it well. Lil Bao, it's been 5 years. My Peace Association has been going downhill. Sometimes I really want to give up. Lord Jiu rubbed Lil Bao's head. Lil Bao looked at his master and stuck out his tongue. Xiaobao, how about we change a place to live? It's really tiring here. Lord Jiu let out a deep breath. He seemed to be very tired and wanted to change a place to live. Oh. Lord Jiu laughed. Xiaobao, do you have the same idea? How about we leave now? Let's go on a trip when we want to. Woof, Lord Jiu patted on Xiaobao's head, then took out the Cosmos sack that Qing Tian gave him back then. Within the Cosmos sack there was a small box, and within the box there was a piece of paper and a mirror. Lord Jiu had seen that piece of paper 5 years ago, and it had been destroyed long ago. The rough meaning of the piece of paper was that this mirror was a teleportation artifact that could only be used once. As for where it could be teleported to, Lord Jiu had no idea. Because Lord Jiu was now a loner, and if one were to talk about the person that was closest to him, it would only be Xiaobao. Life is very gloomy and boring. I might as well go to another world and take a look. I might as well bring Xiaobao out to relax. Whether or not I can come back is no longer important. Lord Jiu placed the copper mirror on the office table and placed it towards himself. Afterward, Lord Jiu carried Xiaobao on his body. This little fellow has become quite a bit heavier. After stroking Xiaobao for a bit, Lord Jiu stretched out his finger and injected a strand of spiritual energy into the copper mirror. The copper mirror could be seen emitting a powerful radiance, which instantly absorbed Lord Jiu and Xiaobao. The radiance gradually dispersed, and there was not a single person in the office. There was only the copper mirror on the table, and the surface of the copper mirror was already cracked. Southern Ing family. Inkongsher stood in front of the ancient beast Heavy Dust Cave. Right now his expression was very strange and there was even a fake mustache stuck on his mouth, making him look like a man. However, today, Inkongsher was going to do what a man should do, and that was to challenge the ancient beast Heavy Dust Cave. If I succeed in the challenge, I will rush to Voidless Realm and propose marriage. Who cares about life and death? The person that the Empress is going to marry back then is me, Inkongsher. I am the Empress's man. With a firm conviction, Inkongsher took the first step and slowly walked down the cave. As the coldness became stronger, Inkongsher started to panic a bit. Back then Big Brother died in the cave as well. If I were to die today, I can at least give my big brother an explanation. Empress, I, Inkongsher, am definitely going to marry you. Walking down to the underground cave, Inkongsher hugged his chest with both of his hands. So cold? Upon thinking about that terrifying ancient beast Heavy Dust Cave, I can't help but shiver a bit. I won't be stomped into meat paste by it, right? Should I go back and think about it? After all, marrying the Empress is not a small matter. I should go back and discuss it with my Lord Father. I'm still too hasty. I should go back and plan properly first. However, when Inkongsher turned around and prepared to leave, a bright red fingernail poked in front of Inkongsher, causing the entire ground to tremble. Inkongsher felt that his back instantly turned cold. However, at the same time when his back turned cold, there was also a wave of hot air that hit his back, bringing along a fishy smell. Right now, Inkongsher was panicking badly. He felt that he was going to be eaten up very soon. Who can come and save me? I, Inkongsher, am willing to do anything for you for my entire life. I don't want anything. God, quickly come and save me. I still don't want to die. I still haven't married the Empress. Inkongsher looked at the bright red fingernail that was raised up high, and it was clearly aimed towards his head. Boom. Heavy Dust Cave was a ferocious beast. It didn't have any mercy in its heart. The bright red fingernail ferociously dropped down, poking out a dent on the ground. However, when Inkongsher moved his fingernail away, he was very puzzled. Where is he? Long and City Leisure Bar. Right now, Leisure Bar's business is temporarily suspended. The opening time is unknown. Please look forward to it. Meanwhile, in the lobby of Leisure Bar, a chilling aura pervaded the air. Yi Hua stood in front of the bar counter and looked at his subordinates. Today is a good day. Why do I say that? Chapter 740. Standing beside Yi Hua were Qingya and Donghuang Baiji. Of course, there was also his beautiful sister-in-law. These three women were simply so beautiful that they could kill a person. From this, it could be seen that Yi Hua's eyesight was very sharp. Out of thousands of women, he had chosen the three of them. Dong Huangli was standing at the side. Right now, Dong Huangli was already more than 8 years old and she was quite a bit taller than before. Dong Huangli was about the same height as Yi Zizi, and Dong Huangli could already be counted as a little beauty. Dong Huangli had inherited her father's good points, and if another 10 years were to pass, Dong Huangli would definitely become a great beauty. As the younger brother, Yi Yen was already 6 years old, and he was about the same height as the older sister, Dong Huangli. Yi Yen had delicate features, and there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. Dragon Abyss. At this time, Yi Yen gave off a very strong sense of affinity, just like a neighbor's little brother. He would definitely grow up to be a warm man. Meanwhile, God Yi, who was standing behind Yi Yen, was different. Although he was only 5 years old, his little face was cold and penetrating. He was exactly the same as his father, emotionless and solemn. Yi Lu, who was next to her, was the same. She was as cold as ice, as if nothing could affect her emotions. She was really a little cold beauty. Looking at the entire team, there was no change from 5 years ago. As one of the 7 deadly sins, Yi Hua's direct subordinates stood at the very front, and even Kai Yun had to stand behind the 7 deadly sins. However, they stood according to their status. In the past 4 years, all of the subordinates' families had been harmonious. There were no outbreaks of mistresses, and they were all satisfied with their current state. Yi Hua even praised Lai Gu. During these 4 years, Lai Gu had simply become a good man of the new century. In Yi Hua's eyes, he felt that Lai Gu was only 30% hot and would definitely go and look for other women. However, the truth was not like that. From what Qingya said, right now Lai Gu is wholeheartedly treating his 4 wives well, bringing them to play all over the world, just like an underling. Furthermore, at home Lai Gu is cooking and cleaning. In the past, Lai Gu was like a big uncle at home, but now, ever since Lai Gu got married, he had become a typical family man. For this, Qingya even asked me to learn from Lai Gu. The Supreme Overlord immediately thought to himself, what the F***k? That very night, I will call Lai Gu to go to the bar. who knew that Lai Gu would bring all 4 of his wives out. I really want to stew Lai Gu. Now all the women in the team only had one thing to say to their husbands. Learn from how Lai Gu dotes on his wife. Dou Fushi was very happy that he was no longer the one who stuck his head out. However, Lai Gu had an indifferent expression on his face. So what if I dote on my wife? I like it. During these 4 years Yu Hua had also enjoyed the taste of happiness. Lai Gu was truly good to me, just like how he was when he was pursuing me. There was no difference at all. Sometimes he would even give me a small surprise. He truly knows how to make my wife happy. If Sky Hong had half of Lai Gu's EQ, he wouldn't have missed out on Yu Hua. During the past 4 years, Song Kong Hong had been staying in South Wuxia Banner. Unless Yi Hua called for a meeting, he wouldn't come out. He seemed to be studying, but who knew? At this moment, Song Kong Hong was also standing in the crowd. She seemed very calm and there was nothing unusual about her. Yu Hua, who was standing behind Lai Gu, was also very normal. Actually, ever since that day, other than meeting each other in meetings, the two of them basically did not speak to each other. Lai Gu even generously asked Yu Hua to go and guide Blue Sky Hong. It wasn't that Yu Hua hadn't tried to talk to her, but Song Kong Hong wasn't willing to meet her, so this situation was created. As for Zhu Tian, he was still the same as before, lying in the bosom of his 3 wives and sleeping every day. From now on, our vacation ends. From today onwards, we will enter a state of combat readiness. Yi Hua's gaze swept across his subordinates and shouted out in a low voice. Hearing what his honor said, all of Yi Hua's subordinates revealed out their desire to fight. They were also bored to the point that they were starting to get anxious. Because right now, there wasn't anyone who would come and provoke Voidless Realm and South Wuxia Banner. If it was 1 or 2 years, it would still be fine. He felt uncomfortable all over. His honor's announcement of his return is simply too great. That place is truly a crazy world. Subordinates are willing to follow in his honor's footsteps and exterminate all evil. All of Yi Hua's subordinates kneeled on the ground and shouted out. Yi Hua nodded his head silently. This is the aura that a leader should have. Not bad. Very good. Everyone get up. Thank you, Your Honor. Yi Hua paused for a moment, then said again, let us shout out our slogan one more time. The hall immediately quietened down. Slogan? When did we have a slogan? All of Yi Hua's subordinates were stupefied. Even Qingye, who was beside Yi Hua, was puzzled. When did we have a slogan? Suddenly, Yi Zizi seemed to have thought of something and immediately shouted out. The team sure has a good idea. Following Yi Zizi's shout, everyone immediately understood what Yi Zizi meant and shouted out in unison. Do it steadily. Do a report every day. How can a team not be good? Yi Hua looked at his subordinates in astonishment, then suddenly clapped his hands and stood up. All right. All of Yi Hua's subordinates let out a sigh of relief. That scared me to death. We are going to do it according to this slogan. I hope that you all will remember this slogan. Subordinate will definitely memorize this slogan every day. Yi Hua paused for a moment, then said gravely, all right. Let the heavens see where we will land in Kangluo continent and what will be the first thing that we will do. Seize the palace. Dou Fushi shouted out excitedly. Li Hun, who was beside Dou Fushi, immediately covered her husband's mouth. It's to win people over with virtue. Li Hun laughed. Yi Hua really wanted to give a slap to Li Hun. To actually dare to say seize the palace in front of my wife. Am I that vulgar? Do I even need to seize it? Do I look like that kind of man who doesn't have any dignity? Superficial. Pedantic. What Li Hun said is right, I am going to win people over with virtue. Yi Hua said gravely. The first thought that emerged in the minds of all of Yi Hua's subordinates was, why don't they believe me? What his honor is saying right now should all be antonyms. When the time comes, I will just have to do the opposite. Subordinates that are full of brains are the most terrifying. Even Qing Yutong, who was at the side, didn't believe that Yi Hua would win people over with virtue. Every single time he would use violence to conquer others and all kinds of threats. But I just like this kind of brother-in-law. If a man isn't bad, women won't love him. This sentence wasn't without reason. When it came to a suitable amount of badness, women would love it to death. Just like Lai Gu. And Blue Sky Hong belonged to the category of honest and well-behaved people. Let's not talk too much. We will send it out now. Yi Hua could be seen slowly raising his hand. With a snap of Yi Hua's fingers, everyone in the hall disappeared. The lights of the bar gradually dimmed, and Yi Hua's vacation had ended. Now he was waiting for his next vacation. However, everyone seemed to have forgotten about a person. Death Assassin. This skeleton that had been forgotten for close to 6 years was cautiously guarding Long Outyen. Outside the small thatched cottage, Death Assassin was currently standing at the side and watching Long Outyin train with his sword. From time to time, Death Assassin would walk up to Long Outyin to guide him. Chapter 741. Dad, Uncle Skeleton, Mom is done cooking. A chubby little man could be seen walking out of the thatched cottage and shouting. A happy smile could be seen on his little face. Meanwhile, Meng Meng, who was inside the thatched cottage, was currently carrying the dishes onto the table with a gentle smile on her face. This family of 3 was very satisfied living here. Long Outyin kept his sword and lightly let out a breath. After training with Death Assassin, only then did he realize how big of a gap there was between him and Death Assassin. He was basically not Death Assassin's opponent. If Death Assassin wanted to, he would be able to instantly kill me. This is truly terrifying. Master, come in and eat. Don't always go back to the cottage when we are eating. You are making me very embarrassed. Long Outyin hurriedly pulled Death Assassin and pulled him into the cottage. It would be fine if Long Outyin didn't pull Death Assassin, but Long Outyin unexpectedly pulled Death Assassin into the cottage. This must be heaven's will. Death Assassin doesn't need to eat, and of course he can't eat either. Could it be that you want me to sit at the side and watch the family of 3 eat? After being pulled into the cottage by his disciple, Death Assassin could only sit down. Quickly come and taste the dishes made by my wife. It's super delicious. Long Outyin was no longer the Long Outyin from back then. He seemed to have changed into a different person. He no longer had that arrogant look, and he treated others very well. The main point was that he no longer had any thoughts of having a harem. He only wanted to accompany his wife and child. Uncle Skeleton, the dishes made by my mother are really delicious. The little fellow Long Yang said while grinning, and he even placed food on Death Assassin's bowl. Meng Meng felt embarrassed by what the father and son said. It's just plain tea and plain food. Wife, look at how modest you are. Master is not an outsider. What's more, isn't it great that Master is accompanying us to eat together? Death Assassin. However, just as Death Assassin was feeling gloomy, he suddenly felt a strange aura. It seems like he is going to leave this world. What's going on? Long Outyin felt the change in Death Assassin. Master, what's wrong? Death Assassin grabbed onto Long Outyin's wrist. A pair of hollow eyes flickered with red light, and his body seemed to be fading. Long Outyin, who was grabbed onto by Death Mage, was also fading. This is definitely because my master is going to leave this world, and as a summoned product, I will leave together with my master. However, he still had to complete his master's orders. He had to watch over Long Outyin. Outyin, what happened to you? Meng Meng also grabbed her husband's arm. Dad, Mom, what happened to you two? Long Yang was frightened as he cried and shouted while hugging onto his mother. Before Long Outyin could ask, the 4 of them disappeared from the hut in an instant. The dishes on the table were still steaming hot, but no one would taste them again. Where is this place? Yihua asked gravely. His complexion was a bit bad because this place was different from what I imagined it to be. Looking at the surroundings, Zhang Xian saw that the trees were withered and there was no green grass on the ground. There were no fresh flowers to welcome the arrival of the main body. There were only bone-chilling astral winds. Yihua's words caused all of Yihua's subordinates to be stupefied. Zishan and Li Hun were both women from the god's realm. They had never been to the enormous Kangluo continent before, so they did not know about it. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were even more clueless. Donghuang Li and Yi Yen were already happily running around and playing. Yi Lu and God Ye's eyes were filled with excitement. They knew why their father wanted to wait for 5 years. It was because he wanted them to grow up. This meant that his father was about to give him a mission. I'm so excited. I must definitely complete the mission that my father gave me and let my father know that I am capable of carrying the entire Yi family on my shoulders. The few people from the 7 deadly sins didn't know where they were either. Because the place that I fought with his honor at that time is quite beautiful. Unlike this desolate place, this place is too miserable. Wei Chang said respectfully, Your Honor, please quell your anger. From the environment here, it can be seen that the place that we appeared in should be in the north, and this place doesn't have any grass or trees, so we should be in the west direction of the north. Wei Chang was guessing based on his own experience. Hearing Wei Chang saying that it was in the west direction of the north, Yihua was starting to believe what Wei Chang said. The northwest is very vast, to the point that you start to doubt your life. Furthermore, the northwest is a lawless region and it is very chaotic. Every sect controls a land that is 10,000 miles wide, and the nobles that are within this region have to pay protection fees to the sect. In Kangluo continent, the sect is bigger than the royal family. I am planning to become the emperor, so who the hell is going to ask me for protection fees? I will make you feel despair to the point that you start to doubt your life. Baigu. Subordinate is here. Go and take a look at the surroundings. Yihua's words paused for a moment. Just a moment ago I was about to say that I am going to snatch the throne. Is there any family that I can stay in? Yihua said faintly. My 2 wives are quite shrewd. However, Yihua still sent a voice transmission to Baigu. Go and take a look at the nearest imperial city. Yes. Baigu, who was in the air, immediately disappeared. It must be said, Baigu is indeed an expert in intelligence gathering. Looking at my subordinates, they seem to be very bored. Let's barbecue first. Yi Hong and the other tools have been brought, right? Yihua said faintly. Your Honor, I have brought them. Go and arrange it then. Yes, Your Honor. Yi Hong and LV Liang could be seen immediately setting up the barbecue rack. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji had a stupefied look on their faces. In the end, Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but ask, Yihua, are you here for revenge or are you here for barbecue? Yihua was currently eating skewers. It smells so good. Didn't Baigu go to scout for intelligence gathering? Let's fill our stomachs first. Hey Do Fusher, quickly set up the tent. We will be sleeping here today. Everyone, I feel that His Honor isn't here for revenge but rather, he is here for a vacation. With the atmosphere of an outing, everyone started barbecuing. Furthermore, the wives of Lai Gu's subordinates were displaying their talents. The wives were singing, the wives were dancing. Lai Gu's 4 wives were incredible. They were able to sing and dance. Look at Lai Gu, this little man. After his 4 wives finished performing, there would be a bit of sweat on his forehead, and Lai Gu would immediately take out a napkin to wipe his sweat. What a good man. The sky gradually darkened, and in this desolate and uninhabited place, the bonfire seemed so bright. Your Honor. Suddenly Baigu's voice rang out in the air. Yihua placed the beer on the ground, and his subordinates stopped chatting and stood up respectfully. Yihua sat on the ground and asked faintly, Have you found it? Your Honor, I have already found it. There is a big family that is 10,000 kilometers away from here. Yihua wrinkled his brows. The closest family? Yes, Your Honor. Yihua originally planned to find the closest family to see who was the most unlucky. From the looks of it, this family was the most unlucky one. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji smiled bitterly as they shook their heads. Husband, this is really... Continue acting. Let's see how long you can continue acting. Chapter 742. Yihua pondered for a while, then looked at the sky. It was already getting late. Rest here today. Let me think about it. Yes. The subordinates began to return to their own tents. Due to the soundproofing problem, the male friends had to endure it. After all, it was very embarrassing if their wives' moans were heard. Yihua seemed to have thought of this problem as well, thus he added on, Tonight, all of you pay attention, keep quiet. As soon as he said this, his subordinates instantly understood. All of the women were endlessly bashful. His Honor is very mischievous right now, and the 2 madams don't even care about him. Tang Wei, who was in the team, wanted to, but it was a pity that the blockhead beside her didn't care about her. In the entire team, she was the only one who was still a virgin. Actually, there were also a few virgins. For example, Sun Fang, Brett, and of course Qing Yutong, all of them were waiting to be. It was really hard on these girls. Yihua naturally brought his 2 wives into the tent. Right now, the children had long since gone to sleep by themselves, and there was no need for their parents to accompany them. Towards coming to this unfamiliar world, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were both very excited. Hundreds and thousands of questions came out of their mouths, causing Yihua to not be able to think at ease. If anything were to happen in the future, the 2 of you would have to take the blame. Gradually, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji fell asleep while nestling in Qingya's embrace. Yihua, who was hugging onto the most beautiful woman in the world, didn't have the mood to sleep at all. Returning to this world once again made Yihua so excited that he wanted to shout out. However, in front of his subordinates, he was too embarrassed to do so. Therefore, he used the barbecue performance to calm himself down. Hearing the sound of the wind coming from outside, Yihua let out a breath, then slowly closed his eyes and went to sleep. In the past, I could continuously not sleep, but right now, sleeping has already become a daily habit. Should I put on a facial mask to replenish my hydration? A slight groan suddenly sounded out, and Yihua, who was about to fall asleep, suddenly opened his eyes. Which bastard couldn't help but mess with his wife? I have already emphasized it so much, yet you still want to do it. Don't you know this is a group activity? You can't even tolerate this. Yihua really wanted to rush out and give the harshest criticism. Although his voice was very, very low, probably everyone heard it. A few black lines had already appeared on Yi Hua's forehead. Which shameless person is it? Don't you know to cover your wife's mouth? Even a soundproof spell would be good. In Cracked Bones' tent, Lai Gu was hugging Wen Xia with his left arm and Yu Hua with his right arm, while Yu Hua and Bai Xiaojun were sleeping beside him. Lai Gu's mouth was slightly twitching. The faces of the four wives were slightly red, because they also heard the sound. His honor is really too much. He doesn't allow us to act recklessly, yet he himself is acting recklessly. Lai Gu said in a low voice. Yu Hua said softly, maybe it's someone else? Just now, his honor had strictly forbade us from doing anything. Who would dare to do that? Lai Gu pursed his lips. His honor is truly unable to stay calm for the entire night. Maybe it's a soul-detaching technique. The other one beside him laughed tenderly. Maybe Zishan. Bai Xiaojun followed up and said. It seemed that in the team these two women were famous for pestering their husbands. But inside Floating World's tent, Wandering Soul's ears were stuffed with white napkins to stop all the seductive sounds because he was afraid that he would not be able to resist it. Do Fusher rolled his eyes. His honor is too bad. He asked his subordinates to be quiet, yet he himself, inside Yi Hong's tent, Zishan used her clothes to cover her face. Yi Hong was the same as well. That voice was too devilish. The four little fellows were sleeping very soundly, and thus they didn't hear anything. When everyone walked out of their tent the next day, their eye circles were a bit dark. It was clear that they didn't sleep well. Yi Hua sized up his subordinates. Just who was the one who did it for the entire night? Meanwhile, when the subordinates looked at his honor, they couldn't help but admire him in their hearts. Because Qingya and Donghuang Baiji slept very early yesterday, they didn't hear what Yi Hua said. But today they discovered that the gaze that Yi Hua's subordinates were looking at them with was different. I do not wish for what happened last night to happen again, Yi Hua said gravely. That person is simply shameless. The subordinates felt that his honor was the one who complained first. It was clearly us, and even his honor's wife was led astray by his honor. However, as men they were still able to understand his honor. Just that, this kind of behavior doesn't conform to his honor's style. I will personally go and take a look today. All of you, defend the battlefield. Subordinate obeys. Regarding the future headquarters, Yi Hua wanted to personally go and take a look. He mustn't be careless about this. Since it was going to be a big family, the area that the headquarters occupied should be very large. The 300-meter-tall city wall should not be lacking, and the dazzling and magnificent palace should not be lacking. The flourishing streets definitely should not be lacking because only flourishing would be able to display my ruling power. Yi Hua, I will go with you. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly at the side. All right, Qingya, you stay behind and look after the children, don't let them run around. Yi Hua warned. Although he wasn't really worried about the children's safety as a father, he still had to be concerned about the children. And the two of you be careful. Qingya replied obediently. Yi Hua didn't dawdle and brought the empress to take a look at the future palace. That palace was going to be a great place in history. However, when he saw the big family, Yi Hua's expression became bad. 300-meter-tall city wall? I'm thinking too much. The city wall is constructed using simple round wood, even the city gate is made of wood. I'm thinking too much about the flourishing streets. The streets were cold and cheerless, and occasionally, a figure would appear and quickly run into a house, leaving behind deep snow on the ground. Palace? Those are just a few dilapidated houses. The magnificence of the palace turned pitch black, and you call this a big family? Big my ass. Yi Hua, let's go down and take a look. Donghuang Baiji suggested. How would Yi Hua have the mood to enter the city to take a look? This should be the smallest, imperial city. As long as a wave of monsters attacked the city, this small imperial city would disappear from the map. Those people seem to be leaving in a panic. Donghuang Baiji pointed at the crowd that was leaving the city hurriedly and said. Yi Hua let out a breath. I didn't expect that my luck would be so bad, to be able to pick such a place right from the start. I am truly unlucky. Didn't they say that there would be nothing in this magnificent city? After landing on the ground with the empress, the two of them stepped on the deep snow and slowly walked towards the city gate. Towards this noble person who suddenly appeared, the people that were preparing to leave sized up the two of them with curious gazes. The man was extraordinarily handsome, and the woman was so beautiful that it could make one feel suffocated. This kind of man and woman with a single look, one could tell that they were sent down by some sect to gain experience. One cannot afford to offend them. The mink coat that Yi Hua was wearing was even more extravagant. Chapter 743. There weren't even any strong men. Most of them were old, weak women and children. Dong Huang Baiji was finally unable to hold back the doubt in her heart, and asked an old man who was sweeping the snow in front of his house. "Hello, why are all the people here leaving the city and I don't see many men?" The old man raised his wrinkled face, took a look at Dong Huang Baiji and went into a slight daze. From the looks of it, he was shocked by Dong Huang Baiji's beauty as well. After all, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji's beauty could be said to be able to attract both big and small people, and anyone who saw them would be shocked. "Little girl, it's not safe here. Leave quickly." The old man gently persuaded her. He withdrew his gaze and continued to sweep the snow on the ground. "Just what is going on here?" Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but ask again. The old man straightened his slightly bowed waist and said in a low voice, "It's winter and the evil witches often appear. The strong men in the city have been captured, and the monsters appear after winter. In the past, the Duchy of Gouda sent out troops to suppress them, but in the past 3 years there has been no one. It's the royal family who organized the resistance. However, right now even the royal family has run away and this Lingtai kingdom is about to be destroyed." After finished speaking, the old man took a deep breath. "I have grown up here and I don't have the strength to run anymore." Looking at the old man's aged back as he walked into the house, Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. Compared to this place, the people on earth are much more fortunate. At least he didn't have to be afraid. "Yihua, how about this place be our headquarters?" Dong Huang Baiji held onto her husband's arm and said. Yihua didn't really like this place. Although this place was big, it was too simple and crude, and it would be very troublesome to rebuild this place. "Do you like this place?" Yihua asked curiously. Compared to liking them, Dong Huang Bai would rather help these helpless people to have a good environment to live in. If they are under Yihua's protection, they should be able to obtain protection. In any case, Yihua was also planning to look for a territory. Not only would he be able to help others here, no one would snatch his territory away from him, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. "Will you please?" Without the children by her side, the queen began to shake her husband's arm and act like a spoiled child. Yihua was helpless. "I can't stand my 2 women acting coquettishly the most, especially the empress." "Let's go back and make a plan then?" Yihua said faintly. "Let's go back to this place then. I, the supreme overlord, am here to be an emperor, so I must have the dignity of an emperor. It's just that this starting point is too low. This place can no longer be called a country, it's more or less like a small village and I, the supreme overlord, am just a village head, f***ck. After returning to the campsite, Yihua began passing down his orders. As for the sound he heard last night, it shouldn't have been made by his subordinates. The Miko-sama was grabbing men, and it was obvious that she was trying to extract Yang Qi. He was already used to this kind of evil technique. As for how to become the emperor of Lingtai Kingdom, Yihua couldn't force himself to do it. "I have to make those people beg me to become the emperor, and then I will reluctantly become the emperor. We need actors for this." The enemy actors seem to be ready. "I heard the old man say that monsters are attacking the city, so I shall take this opportunity to display my great strength. I'll let you people see that even if an ancient divine beast attacks the city, I can destroy it." The next step was to wait for the monsters to attack the city and then move into the Lingtai Kingdom's palace. However, every night Yihua and his subordinates would be able to hear that NNN sound. If it wasn't for the fact that he needed an actress, Yihua would have long arranged for this witch to play the role. And from the information that Yihua received from White Bones, he found out that the evil witch was indeed recuperating, and judging from the quantity of the evil witch, she would be coming out to recuperate very soon. More importantly, this witch is controlling a lot of rank 1 and 2 monsters. No wonder there would be monsters attacking the city, it seems like this witch is controlling the city from behind. "It is a pity that this time you met me and in the end you are going to become the stepping stone for me to ascend to the throne. However, for you to be able to torture me for a few nights, you can be considered to be formidable, and for you to even make me keep you, you should feel fortunate." Finally, 8 days later, White Bones sent over a message there was movement. The 8 days of camping in the wilderness caused Yihua and his subordinates to suffer unspeakably, especially those who had to exercise every single day. This was practically torture to them. After hearing that the witch had taken action, White Bones really wanted to thank the witch. "You finally took action." Right now, outside of Lingtai Kingdom's wooden wall, over 100 rank 1 and 2 monsters were gathered. The small ones ranged from slimes to goblins, and there were even 1 or 2 skeletons that were holding onto staffs, undead. And standing in the air was an enchanting woman. That woman was precisely the witch that the old man spoke of. Dressed in a purple robe, Her beautiful hair that was like a waterfall hung down naturally, and her slender white legs were faintly discernible. Every single movement of hers carried a seductive air, and although she was smiling, it was a cold and eerie smile. On top of the wooden wall stood a few old men that were in their 70s and 80s. Their bodies were covered in worn-out armor, and their hands were holding onto the most ordinary bows and arrows. The quiver that they carried on their backs only had a few arrows, and it was unknown whether or not they would be able to hit the enemy. The old man that was sweeping the snow could be seen as the leader of the group, and on his waist was a machete. His eyes were fixated on the monsters that were not far away from him, and of course he was also fixated on the witch who was in the air. "Raise the flag!" the old man shouted loudly. On top of the wooden wall, 30-plus old men could be seen raising the flag of Lingtai Kingdom, and the scarlet flag fluttered on top of the wooden wall. Very quickly, the pure white snowflakes dyed the scarlet flag with a layer of white crystals. "Draw the bow!" the old man shouted again. The 30 old men pulled the bow in their hands into a full moon shape. Looking at the old men on the wooden wall, Miko-sama was amused and shouted in a sweet voice, "Old men, open the gate and I will spare your lives." "You crazy Miko-sama, God will deal with you one day," the old man shouted. Maybe it was because he hadn't drawn the bow for a long time, his right hand was trembling, and he accidentally shot the arrow. The arrow glided in the white air in a beautiful arc and firmly inserted into the ground. It was still 10 feet away from the target. Miko-sama couldn't help but laughing at these old men who overestimated themselves. Such ordinary people dared to block her way. The old man looked at the arrow and his heart sank. The morale of the old men next to him was greatly affected, and they were very depressed. "Miko-sama, today I will fight you to the death to avenge my son." The old man pulled out the machete from his waist, pointed it at Miko-sama and shouted angrily. Miko-sama stuck out her bright red tongue and licked the corner of her mouth. "Old man, your son tastes good, very fragrant." "You." Miko-sama stopped smiling, and a gloomy aura shrouded her face and she shouted, "Kill!" Hundreds of monsters rushed towards the wall, and more than 30 old men began to draw their bows and shoot arrows, but such arrows were useless, they couldn't even penetrate the slime. Chapter 744. Put out the fire. Put out the fire. The women in the city carried buckets of water, hoping to put out the raging fire. However, all of these were in vain. It was only a matter of time before the monsters rushed in. The old men shot all of the arrows and pulled out their swords, planning to have a life-and-death battle with these monsters. Live and die together with Lingtai country. Looking at the ferocious monsters, everyone on the city wall revealed a look of despair. How good would it be if there were reinforcements at this time? Perhaps, the old men's prayers were answered by the heavens. The originally gloomy weather suddenly revealed a ray of light, and the heavy snow in the sky instantly stopped. Such a phenomenon caused the monsters to stop attacking, and even the witch was puzzled, thinking to herself that there shouldn't be any experts coming to this small place, right? That Gouda principality even abandoned this Lingtai country, and those sects wouldn't even bother about it. Just what is this thing? The witch was puzzled, but when the old men on the city wall and all of the women in the city saw such a spectacle, they all knelt down and shouted that the heavens had opened their eyes. Regarding such a phenomenon, it was indeed like the heavens had opened their eyes. Of course, this wasn't because the heavens had opened their eyes, it was because Yi Hua felt that it was about time for him to appear. After all, if he appeared at the start, he definitely wouldn't achieve such an effect. He had to give people hope when they were in despair, this way they would be able to worship him endlessly. Don't ask why. If you watch Calabash Brothers saving your grandfather for a few years, you will also understand this logic. A ray of golden light shot out from the sky and landed on the ground. Yi Hua and his subordinates appeared for the first time in Kangluo continent. Although there weren't many spectators and they weren't very strong, it could be said that they had taken the first step. The people on the city wall all saw the 20-plus people that suddenly appeared. There were men, women, and even children. Everyone was very puzzled. Just who are these people? No matter who they are, to be able to descend from the sky, they are definitely not ordinary people. They might be some powerful sects that knew that the people here were living in an abyss of suffering and sent their proud disciples to come and save them. I heard that the disciples of those sects all fly around in the sky, and in the blink of an eye, they can jump tens of thousands of feet. Right now, the witch was also sizing up Yi Hua and the others. This group of people looks very ordinary, and I can't feel any fluctuation of Do Chi from them. However, why is there no fluctuation of Do Chi when they descend from the sky? This is very strange. Who are you people? How dare you ruin my plans? Miko-sama shouted, looking very vigilant. Yi Hua ignored the witch and said faintly, "Soul separation, let these monsters recover." Yes. Soul drifting raised a hand, and a pink mist enshrouded all of the monsters. The eyes of these monsters gradually focused on Kuroto. It was obvious that they were under Miko's control just now. The monster that had regained its sanity looked a little huge. It looked around curiously, wondering what it was doing. Yi Hua saw that there were even undead among these monsters. Thinking back, I was also like this back then. If I didn't work hard, I would have ended up becoming someone else's tool, and I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I have today. As an undead, how could he resign himself to fate? If he did not work hard, he would not know how great his achievements would be. Miko-sama watched Soul Drifting lift her control with a flick of his hand, causing her heart to sink. From this move, it could be seen that this woman's strength was on par with his. If these people were all that strong, wouldn't he be in trouble today? What if they were bluffing? Just to trick me away? I'm a level 1 doja, who the hell are you people? The witch revealed her strength, seemingly wanting to use this method to scare them away. In Kangluo continent there was a division of strength. Do doja dosher, de dosher, do wang, do huang, do zong, do di, do zun and tianzun. Of course, there were also talented and intelligent people who were able to reach Heaven's Law. During the promotion to a doja, every sect would unearth a Heaven's Law expert to become a Heaven's Law doja. Heaven's Law doja and ordinary doja were worlds apart. Heaven's Law doja were invincible in the same rank, and they were even able to fight against those of a higher rank. As long as one became a Heaven's Law doja, one would definitely become popular in the entire Kangluo continent. After all, there were a lot of sects that were willing to provide resources to Heaven's Law doja. All in all, Heaven's Law expert was a hot commodity in Kangluo continent. The number of Heaven's Law experts that died in Yi Hua's hands was not small. However, Heaven's Law Overlord, Yi Hua had yet to meet someone of this rank. Because, to be able to cultivate to Heaven's Law Overlord, not only did one need time, one also needed too many items. Just like playing a game, the amount of experience needed to level up a Heaven's Law Overlord was 100 times more than that of an ordinary Heaven's Law Overlord. Furthermore, a lot of materials were required to level up a Heaven's Law Overlord, and one must know that the number of Heaven's Law Overlords was very few to begin with. Thus, in Kangluo continent, there had never been a Heaven's Law Overlord, let alone a Heaven's Law Overlord. Meanwhile, Yi Hua's 4 children were definitely Heaven's Law experts. According to the division of strength, Ali at the very least had the strength of a Heaven's Law Do Zong, while Yi Yin, God Yi, and Yi Lu should have the strength of a Heaven's Law Emperor. They did not need any items to level up, and as they grew older their strength would grow as well. This was the benefit of being the child of an overlord. Thus, a child like Ali had long won at the starting line, the kind that was unreasonable. However, this which was just an ordinary doja. Without the powerful resources of a sect, it was already not bad for her to be able to cultivate to the level of a doja. However, this kind of cultivation was very evil, and it was fated to be a dead end. Yi Hua took a casual look at the witch. Doja? She sure is small. Who am I? I am someone that you cannot afford to offend. Right now, Yi Hua did not refer to himself as the Supreme Overlord. Ah, arrogant child, I see that your looks are not bad, and you are very suitable to be my medicine catalyst. Also you men. The witch looked at Yi Hua and the others. While I don't have any thoughts towards women, I have a lot of thoughts towards men. Alright, I will gift one to you then, Sky Red. I will leave this to you. Yi Hua said faintly. There was only one reason why Yi Hua called Sky Red out, and that was because there were some things that couldn't be held back and needed to be vented out. This which just so happened to be a woman that liked to tease men, and thus Sky Red was the perfect target for Sky Red to take revenge on. I'm not saying that Yi Hua likes to tease men, I am just feeling that Sky Red needs to vent out her anger. Yes. Sky Red replied gravely, then walked out of the group. The 2 meters tall Sky Red looked just like a small mountain, especially the explosive muscles on his body. For women that liked muscular men, Sky Red's body was practically a fatal injury. Chapter 745. Sky Hong stood at the front of the group and stared deeply at Miko-sama. He had been hearing this shameless woman's voice every night for the past few days, and Sky Hong really wanted to crush her head. She was a scumbag. Sky Hong felt that every woman he saw was a scumbag, especially those who were seductive, and he wanted to break their necks. Miko-sama looked at Sky Hong with excitement in her eyes. Originally, Sky Hong was standing at the back and she didn't pay much attention to him. Who would pay attention to an ugly man? But when Sky Hong walked out of the group, his muscles made Miko-sama's heart beat faster. Those rock-like muscles, those perfect lines, outlined the sexiness of a man. That 8-pack was like the product of a thunderstorm, and Miko-sama couldn't help but want to touch it. Although this man was extremely ugly, as long as he had a different head, he could still be used. This was the sexiest man she had ever seen. This was true. Although Sky Hong was the ugliest man in the group, he was the sexiest man in the group, and even Miko-sama was infatuated with him. You become my herbalist disciple and I'll spare your life. Miko-sama pointed at Blue Sky Hong and said with a smile, her eyes fixed on Blue Sky Hong's chest, abs and mermaid lines. Sky Hong didn't say anything, and his tall body suddenly disappeared. This startled Miko-sama, and before she could react, she felt a strong hand strangling her neck. Miko-sama was stunned. What kind of speed is this? I didn't even see his trajectory clearly, it's impossible. Feeling the strength on her neck, Miko-sama quickly came back to her senses and revealed a seductive expression. Am I beautiful? Slap. Sky Hong's slap landed on Miko-sama's face and Miko-sama was stunned. Scum! Miko-sama's left cheek instantly swelled up, and her expression was very strange. My seduction technique didn't work on him. This is impossible. Miko-sama forcefully used her seduction technique and asked again, This time she didn't finish her sentence. Slap. Miko-sama's other cheek also swelled up, and this really stunned Miko-sama. It wasn't just Miko-sama who was stunned, the old men standing on the wooden wall were also stunned. That strong man actually grabbed Miko-sama like a little chick and even slapped her. What kind of expert was this? He actually made Doja unable to fight back. Female. Song Kong Hong finally shouted the second word. Putting all of them together, she was a scumbag. When the people on Yi Hua's side heard what Blue Sky Hong said, their expressions became very strange. I didn't expect that after 4 years, Blue Sky Hong's resentment would become even greater. Yu Hua heaved a deep sigh. She didn't think that she would become a scumbag in Song Kong Hong's heart. Lai Gu seemed to have sensed his wife's sadness and lightly embraced Yu Hua into his embrace. The current Lai Gu is really a warm man. Miko-sama was obviously unaware of Blue Sky Red's way of speaking. But Miko didn't give up on saving herself. Soul-splitting palm. Miko's slender hand turned into a palm and struck Sky Hong's chest. What hard pectoral muscles. This was Miko's first thought. Song Kong Hong lowered his head slightly, and his face suddenly contorted. This woman actually touched his chest. She was indeed a shameless scumbag. But this time, Blue Sky Red's strength increased a little and even knocked Miko's teeth out. Miko felt the world spinning around her, and she felt like she was about to fall into a coma. Damn it. How can this man be so strong? There's no other way, I can only use my trump card. Mystic Artifact. Rakshasa Throat Seal. This is a high-grade mystic artifact that I obtained by chance, and it is capable of sealing the throat upon contact with blood. Even an emperor wouldn't be able to save me. I have to use it today. Miko's slender hand moved, and a small needle appeared between her fingers. She then ferociously pierced towards Song Kong Hong's neck. Die. Song Kong Hong slightly frowned and he felt an itch on his neck. When he lowered his head, he saw that Miko was actually holding a needle. She's tickling me? I can't tolerate this. Miko was stupefied. Rakshasa Throat Seal is actually unable to be pierced into my throat. This thin and small needle is actually unable to be pierced into my throat. How is this possible? Song Kong Hong was already extremely enraged by Miko's various teasing methods. He raised his huge palm and slashed at Miko from both sides. His mouth kept on shouting. Scum, woman, how could Miko beat Song Kong Hong's opponent? She was directly slapped unconscious. A golden flame emerged from Song Kong Hong's palm, and Miko's body was instantly devoured. In the blink of an eye, Miko's body turned into dust, and not a single trace was left behind. The jaws of the old men who were standing on top of the wooden wall almost dropped to the ground. Song Kong Hong's actions shocked the old men. Such a powerful Miko was actually grabbed by him and slapped by him. Then he burned the Miko. It felt too surreal. Was this a dream or something? Only after a long time did they realize that this wasn't a dream. This was all real. Miko was killed by that man, and Miko took revenge for the men of Lingtai country. Thank the heavens for sending out such a powerful person. That damned Miko finally got her retribution. The old man looked at the 20+ people outside of the city and immediately shouted, "Quickly open the city gate, we have to properly thank the heroes." At this moment, Song Kong Hong walked back to the group with a stiff expression on his face, as if what happened just now wasn't done by him. However, everyone now knew that Song Konghong didn't like women anymore. His sexual orientation had changed and he had to properly protect the men around him. Everyone turned around and looked towards Lingtai country. A country like this actually only had 100 people left. This is truly tragic. As the city gate opened, the old man brought along some old women and ran out to welcome the heroes who had descended from the sky. Benefactor. The old man brought along everyone and kneeled in front of Yi Hua. Facing such a kneeling, Yi Hua was naturally able to accept it. If I didn't appear, you all might have already become corpses. Get up. Yi Hua said faintly. As the old man stood up and sized up the man in front of him, he suddenly felt that this man looked familiar. When the old man saw Donghuang Baiji who was at the side, the old man recalled. That day when he was sweeping the snow in front of his house, they were the ones who passed by and asked him a question. I didn't expect that they would be the ones who came to save me. They are truly good people. Thank you all for saving us old men. The old man was filled with gratitude as he once again kneeled in front of Yi Hua and kowtowed. For such a good person to appear in this deceitful world is truly not easy. Yi Hua said faintly, since the danger has already been resolved, I won't be staying behind. Hearing what Yi Hua said, the old man immediately became anxious. Benefactor, please stay behind and have a meal with us. We have to properly thank you as well. It's fine. Yi Hua said lightly, pretending that he didn't want anything from the old man. The old men became silent. Yi Hua was a bit puzzled. I am being courteous, shouldn't you all continue to urge me to stay? Let this sovereign be your emperor. Chapter 746. Why are these old men so stupid? Right now is the best time for you all to hug my thigh. Could it be that you all want me to take the initiative to say it? Idiots. Yi Hua misunderstood. These people who are able to stay are all honest commoners. How would they have such thoughts? They need to be enlightened. Therefore at this time I need sensible subordinates to appear. Kai Yun immediately understood. Yi Hua, what do you think we should do if monsters appear again? Kai Yun said melancholically as if he was very worried. As expected of a character in a team, if his acting skills weren't up to par, he wouldn't be able to survive. Yi Hua also immediately understood. That's right, if monsters were to attack again, I'm afraid. Sigh. After speaking, Yi Hua let out a heavy sigh. As expected. Hearing that, the old man's expression changed. Benefactor. Please don't leave. What's wrong? Yi Hua asked gravely. The main reason was because Yi Hua's performance was too cold, just like an emperor, causing people to tremble. The old man actually wanted to say that he was scared. However, upon thinking about the hundreds of lives, the old man made up his mind. Benefactor. Please stay. Protect us. I like to hear this sentence, but as a cold and aloof supreme overlord, it doesn't seem appropriate to agree to it just like this. What can you give us? Yi Hua asked faintly. What I want is the village chief. No. It's the throne. When the old man heard Yi Hua's words, he became stupefied. Give what? This Lingtai country is already broken, what can I give? The old man was a bit desperate. However, a woman at the back said, Benefactor, if you don't mind, you can be our emperor. Following what the woman said, the hundreds of people in the surroundings all agreed. Looking at the group of old, weak women and children who were kneeling in front of him, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. You all finally said it, allowing me to step down. Should I try to shirk it again? Forget it, this group of honest people won't be courteous. If they really let me go later on, it would be awkward. Since you all have requested it sincerely, I will reluctantly agree to it and protect your safety. Yi Hua's tone carried an awe-inspiring aura of righteousness, as if with him here no one would be threatened, and it gave everyone a strong sense of security. Although Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's faces were expressionless, they were still amused by their husband's words. It was obvious that Donghuang Baiji was dying to have sex with Yi Hua, and yet he was still acting as if he didn't want to. However, the current Yi Hua looked very cute. Only Qingya and Donghuang Baiji felt that Donghuang Baiji was cute. The old man was so scared that he was trembling. However, when everyone heard that Yi Hua had agreed to stay behind, a glimmer of hope appeared in everyone's eyes. That burly man was able to pinch the witch to death with a single hand. Such a powerful figure can be compared with those sections. With them guarding the Lingtai kingdom, it was the most suitable choice. The old man immediately shouted, Long live the emperor! Hooray! Long live! As the old man's voice faded, the people behind him shouted in unison. Although it was a bit sloppy, at the very least, Yi Hua was acknowledged by all of the residents. Moreover, it felt good to hear such an honorific. But it was not over yet. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji could be seen slowly caressing Donghuang Baiji's body. When Donghuang Baiji's subordinates saw that Donghuang Baiji's wife was already acting like this, they hurriedly followed suit. Then they shouted in unison, "Our emperor!" Hooray! 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 The shouts of the group of bug-level subordinates immediately shook the world, and the shouts could be heard from a few miles away. At this moment, the falling snow in the sky stopped, and the black clouds gradually dispersed. Sunlight once again descended, shining onto Yi Hua's tall and straight body. They seemed to be respectfully welcoming Yi Hua, the new emperor. When such a phenomenon fell into the eyes of the commoners, they felt that it was the will of the heavens, and they were even more certain that this man was made to be an emperor. To them, the throne was just an empty title. If someone was able to sit on the throne and was able to protect them, then it would be worth it. Rise. Yi Hua placed both of his hands on the table. At this moment he felt really good. Especially Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, they have given me too much face. Tonight, when I return, I will take good care of them and let them feel my boundless love. Everyone stood up, and the old man said respectfully, "My emperor, please follow me. In any case, I am now an emperor and my style of doing things has to change as well. Directly hugging onto my wives seems a bit inappropriate, that would be the behavior of a hoodlum." Walking through the city gate, the spacious road led directly to the dilapidated imperial palace. When Yi Hua walked to the front of the imperial palace, he let out a deep sigh. "My emperor, all of the valuables in the imperial palace have been looted clean, and some of the valuables in the imperial palace are even a bit damaged." The old man was a bit embarrassed. "My benefactor saved everyone, but I am unable to repay him. After all, being an emperor here is equivalent to being a bachelor. I don't have any soldiers, I don't have any power, and the only commoners I am managing are only some elderly people. Furthermore, there are only a few hundred people in the imperial palace, and this place is no different from an empty city." Yi Hua waved his hand helplessly, and the elderly people prepared to go back and pack up. "Old man, come over, I have something to ask you." Yi Hua shouted towards the old man. The old man was startled, and he immediately bowed his body and ran over. This commoner obeys the emperor's decree. Continuing walking into the imperial palace, Yi Hua saw that the palace on top of the stairs was already severely damaged, and the stairs were filled with potholes. Some of the dragon heads were already gone, and only 4 claws were left. There were also weeds on the ground, and the surrounding palace was even more dilapidated. Slowly walking up the stairs, a black signboard fell onto the ground, and on the signboard, 3 big words were written: Supreme Spirit Palace. The interior of the palace was pitch black, and the interior was completely empty. The throne was gone, and the throne was moved away by someone. "This is too miserable." Yi Hua walked into the palace and asked faintly, "What is your name?" "My emperor, this commoner's surname is Chao, and my name is a single character, San." Chao San said respectfully, not even daring to breathe loudly. "I feel that this man is very scary, but I don't know how scary it is." Yi Hua was very curious about a question, and thus he asked, "Let me ask you, why is there no one who sent troops to defend this place?" "My emperor, this Lingtai kingdom is a subsidiary kingdom of Gouda Principality, and every year they have to pay tribute to Gouda Principality. However, because the environment is getting worse and worse, the crops are not able to harvest, and the merchants are also not able to find any business opportunities. As time passes, the Lingtai kingdom declined, and the Lingtai kingdom is unable to afford to pay tribute to Gouda Principality." After hearing what Chao San said, Yi Hua understood. Since the protection fee is gone, the Lingtai kingdom will not be able to renew the protection fee. "What about the royal family here?" "My emperor, the royal family sold all of their valuables and escaped to Gouda Principality. Meanwhile, some of them stayed behind to fight, but in the end they were still captured by the witch." Chao San said gravely. "In this royal family there are good people and there are bad people." Yi Hua nodded his head. "Let me ask you, where is this place? What kind of country is Gouda Principality?" Chapter 747. Your Majesty, this is the territory of the Northern Liang. The Gouda Principality is one of the 3 countries of the Northern Liang, and the 3 countries are controlled by the Tianliang sect. This information was somewhat useful. It seemed that White Bones had to go out and scout for information. "No, I can't go and inquire about information. If I, the Supreme Overlord, knew everything, wouldn't that mean that I wouldn't be able to do anything? I just want to see how my opponent is going to show off his intelligence in front of me. After that, I, the Supreme Overlord, will slap him to death." What else is there besides Northern Liang? Emperor, this commoner has never left Northern Liang. Chao San said apologetically. Yi Hua nodded his head. Just how big is this Kangluo continent? I can't even imagine how big this Kangluo continent is. From now on, you will be the representative of the people. If the people have any wishes, you can look for me directly. Chao San was overjoyed and quickly kowtowed to express his gratitude. This commoner thanks the emperor. Get up, there's more. The name of Lingtai country needs to be changed, it doesn't sound good. Yi Hua really felt that the name was not nice to hear. No matter what, this is my territory, so it should be a bit more loud and powerful. Forget it, the name is too hard to think of. In the future we shall be called Voidless Empire. Hearing this, Chao San was so frightened that he quickly kneeled down. My emperor. You mustn't. Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. What? You have a problem with me? Yi Hua had also made a slip of the tongue and had even gotten the title wrong. The frightened Chao San did not notice and quickly explained, Your Majesty, calling yourself an empire is a great disrespect to the Guda Principality. Moreover, becoming an empire requires the approval of the Tianliang sect, or else it will cause a commotion. I thought it was something big, but it's just a small matter. I've made up my mind. You only need to convey the wishes of the people. You don't have to worry about anything else. Chao San was helpless. He could not persuade her no matter what. If they angered the Guda Principality, they would definitely send troops to exterminate them. Oh my god. Miko-sama had just died, he still couldn't escape death. After Chao San left, Yi Hua said gravely, Empire. I want to see who dares to provoke me. Wei Chong. Subordinate is here. Wei Chong walked out from the group and shouted respectfully. I'll leave the palace and security to you and Tang Wei. Wei Chong and Tang Wei both knelt down on one knee and respectfully shouted, Subordinate obeys. Lai Gu. Your subordinate is here. Yu Iran by Xiaojun Wenxia, and Yu Hua will be in charge of Voidless Empire's defensive measures. Lai Gu's family of four answered respectfully, Subordinate obeys. Open clouds. Your subordinate is here. Kai Yun happily knelt down. You and your subordinates will maintain the internal security of Voidless Empire. Kai Yun, Sky Red, Wild Sand, Luo Ho, and White Bones answered respectfully, Understood. Green and Red Brothers. Your subordinates are here. The Green and Red Brothers walked out from their ranks. I want to see a street packed with people. I don't care what you do. The corners of the Green and Red Brothers' mouths twitched. This was probably the most difficult mission out of all of them. But no matter what, he had to overcome the difficulties. This subordinate obeys. Death Mage. Your subordinate is here. I want this barren land to be reborn. Yi Hua was also doing things according to his own pace. It was a bit difficult to take control of a country, so he had to take it slow. This subordinate obeys. Fighting the world. Soul detachment. Your subordinate is here. Yi Hua said gravely, I will leave the logistics to you guys. Yes. Blood Demon. Your subordinate is here. Go and cook. Yes. Looking towards Ju Tian's family, Yi Hua said faintly, Brett, you and Yi Zizi go and see if there is anything that needs help. Yes. Yes. Qing Yutong. Qing Yutong, who was standing at the side, was startled. It can't be, right? Brother-in-law. Has your sister-in-law come lover? I still have to do things? I can warm the bed though. Here. Qing Yutong shouted out weakly. Clean up the place. Qing Yutong, before doing these things, I wish to see a brand new Voidless Empire. Understand? Your subordinate understands. Go. Yes. All of Yi Hua's subordinates instantly disappeared from the palace, and a husky sat on the ground and stuck out its tongue. Yun Lang seemed to be saying, Give me some missions as well. Go and clean up the demons in Voidless Empire. Yi Hua said faintly. This was to give the people a comfortable environment to live in. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to turn Voidless Empire into heaven on earth and let the housing prices rise to the peak. Woof, Yun Lang ran out of the palace excitedly. Perhaps because he wasn't familiar with the road, he was knocked over by the doorstep. Then, he rolled down the stone steps. From time to time, a scream could be heard. Yun Lang fell down quite heavily. Yutong, what are you waiting for? Yi Hua took a look at his sister-in-law. Humph, Qing Yutong snorted. Even brother-in-law doesn't like me anymore. Dong Huangli shouted out, Daddy, I am going to help Aunt clean up as well. I am going too. Yi Yin followed behind his big sister. God Yi and Yi Lu shouted out as well, Daddy, let's go too. Yi Hua nodded his head. From today onwards, you all have to call Daddy Emperor Father. Dong Huang Li's expression changed. I feel that Daddy is more amiable, Father Emperor sounds a bit cold. Qingya smiled. Alright, when we are in private, call Daddy Emperor when there are outsiders around. Qingya's idea was feasible. The little fellows did not object to it. Qing Yutong brought the 4 children to clean up the place. Empress, how do you feel? Yi Hua laughed lightly. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji pinched each side of Yi Hua. Aren't you proud of yourself? Right now you are still a bald emperor. Bald? You all are truly looking down on me. In less than a month, this place will become a brand new empire. Yi Hua was filled with confidence. The first step of my revenge can be considered to have succeeded. You all said that sects are more important than countries, so I am going to rewrite this rule. Who dares to test my anger? Qingya let out a breath. Yi Hua lightly hugged onto Qingya. He knew why she sighed. Qingya, if you miss your parents, you can go back and take a look. It isn't difficult for you. Yi Hua said tenderly. Qingya and Qing Yutong both had their families, but Donghuang Baiji didn't. Thus, Donghuang Baiji was able to follow him out without any worries. Who asked me to marry you? Qingya said petulantly. Ah. Yi Hua laughed out loud. Qingya said tenderly, Yi Hua, you have to treat me and the children well. And Qingya, you can be at ease. Towards Yi Hua's words, Qingya believed them unconditionally. Although Yi Hua likes to lie to others, he wouldn't lie to others when it comes to big matters. Let's start working as well. In any case, this place will be our home in the future. It won't be comfortable to live in this dilapidated place. Everyone began working. As an empire, they had to act like an empire. This was a very big project, and it was only natural that the number of people would be small. Thus, they had to think of a way. Chapter 748. Wei Chang and Tang Wei were in charge of the reconstruction of the palace, as well as the defense. The huge palace wasn't something that the two of them could handle, so Tang Wei took out a piece of white paper and cut out a human figure. Wei Chang then cast a spell to turn the paper figure into a human. If he summoned a skeleton, he was afraid that it would scare the residents. After all, humans did not have a good impression of other races. The figures that Wei Chang transformed into were all wearing black armor. Their faces were all the same, and their numbers instantly reached 1,000. Under the command of Wei Chang and Tang Wei, the 1,000 black-armored guards were like blood brothers, and they started to repair the entire imperial palace. The materials were naturally prepared by Wei Chang. Meanwhile, Lai Gu and his 4 wives were standing outside of the city wall, feeling very depressed. Lai Gu didn't have the ability to transform like Wei Chang, and the 3 women were the same as well. It was just that their strength was extraordinarily strong, and they didn't know any other spells. Facing such a huge project like the city wall, they were really powerless even if they wanted to. What should we do? The mission that His Honor gave us this time is a bit difficult. Wei Chang scratched onto his forehead in melancholy. What His Honor requested is not an ordinary city wall, it must be a city wall that has a high quality. Yu Hua said softly, Don't worry, I have a way. Don't. My heart aches for you. Lai Gu thought that Yu Hua wanted to use her clone to do things, and thus he immediately rejected Yu Hua. I would rather be scolded by His Honor, but I don't want to see my wife getting tired. Yu Hua was filled with happiness and she just liked how Lai Gu doted on her. This kind of feeling was really good. Hubby, I'm not using a clone. Yu Hua chuckled and explained a little. Yu Hua, I didn't know you had such an ability, he exclaimed. Amazing. Bai Xiaozhen gave Lai Gu a thumbs up. Fortunately, there is Yu Hua who is by Lai Gu's side to provide assistance. Lai Gu didn't waste any more time, he grabbed a handful of snow on the ground and made it into the shape of a human. Then Moonlight cast a spell, and a warrior wearing a set of white armor appeared. That mighty appearance was really frightening. This was Moonlight's powerful ability to control water. Compared to the black-armored warriors, these white-armored warriors were a little weaker, but as a construction team they were enough. Lai Gu and his 3 wives began to play making snowmen, and Yu Hua was in charge of making snowmen. The intense work was in full swing. Kai Yun also brought his 4 subordinates to patrol the entire empty voidless empire. I think our department should be called Southern Wuxi. What do you guys think? Kai Yun has a good idea. This law enforcement team can also be counted as the Empire's law enforcement team. In the future, when His Honor expands his territory, the law enforcement team will become a very powerful existence. Flag Master, this is a good idea. Luo Ho smiled as he waved his white folding fan. And when the time comes, I will go and talk to His Honor. Kai Yun had already imagined the crowds coming and going, and when he appeared, each and every one of them would have a respectful expression on their faces. How refreshing. Wild Sand, get some people out first. The few of us aren't enough to handle the renovation work in this city. Kayun was in charge of the city, so naturally, that included the renovation work. Scarecrow's Wild Sand pulled out a straw from its body and threw it into the air. The straw gradually turned into granules and slowly fell to the ground. One could see with the naked eye that those granules seemed to be growing, gradually growing into human shapes. The entire street was instantly filled with yellow-armored warriors. Their expressions were wooden, just like the Wild Sand. Taking a look, this single straw turned into at least several tens of thousands of people. Under Wild Sand's command, those people immediately started working, renovating the damaged houses and so on. However, when those old men suddenly saw so many yellow-armored warriors appearing on the street, they were a bit stupefied. Where did these people come from? Furthermore, looking at their tall and sturdy bodies, one can tell that they are well-trained warriors. Furthermore, they are even able to fly in the sky. This is too mystical. Right now, the entire Wuxia Empire was in the midst of reconstruction. Even Yi Hua and his 2 wives were helping out, enjoying the process. Qingya was a business-minded woman, but as the Empress, it wasn't good for her to personally make an appearance. Thus, she could only ask Brett to be in charge. Right now, a lot of shops were empty and there were still houses and so on. In the future, there would definitely be people coming over. When the time comes, I will rent out the houses. Selling them is impossible because Yi Hua plans to turn Wuxia Empire into heaven on earth. When Yi Hua heard what his wife said, he blushed with shame. Earning money is also something that an emperor should do. Qingya sure is a smart woman. The thing that Death Mage and Sun Fang were in charge of was very simple, which was to make the land fertile. An ordinary spell would do. After that, they had to make the land around Wuxia Empire clean, then open a channel to bring the river over. As an empire, how could they not have a water source? However, right now the Green and Red brothers were very depressed. Right now they were sitting together with their wives and discussing how to make the streets overcrowded with people. LV Shu, we need local specialties. Selena suggested. Selena said, and we need to create business opportunities here and attract merchants over. Yi Hong said gravely, but the environment here isn't good, and there aren't any local specialties here either. Zishan slammed onto the table. Since there aren't any local specialties here, we will create our own brand. Yi Hong and LV Shu went into a daze. Wife, what are you planning to do? Yi Hong asked curiously. We want to do business with women. Zishan thought of a good idea. Selena immediately understood what Zishan meant. Zishan, this idea of yours is too great. And let's do that. Selena agreed. However, LV Shu looked towards Yi Hong, and Yi Hong looked towards her big brother, completely not knowing what they were talking about. The progress of the renovation was changing every single day, and the entire Voidless Empire looked the same every single day. Under Yi Hua's command, the East City Wall was directly abandoned, and the North and South City Walls were extended all the way to the seaside that was 10 kilometers away. Because Yi Hua wanted to create a port. Only by doing so would he be able to promote the development of trade. Furthermore, by expanding my own territory, this is truly a matter that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. The Imperial Palace was located at the center of the city. Thus, the entire Imperial Palace was relocated. Being strong was just that willful. It was fine for all of the streets to be widened. Those kinds of things were simply not suitable to be placed here. It was fine as long as the original style was maintained. 1 month later. The work was all done. Wuxia Empire's city wall could be seen to be shining with a golden light. Especially when the sun shone on the city wall was so bright that it could practically blind one's eyes. If an enemy were to invade, upon seeing the city wall that was shining with a golden light, they would immediately be blinded by the light. Meanwhile, this wasn't just a simple city wall. There were all sorts of seals that were imprinted on the city wall. If one wanted to break through this city wall, one would require a bit of strength. If not, one might be killed by the city wall. On top of the city wall, there was a white armored warrior standing every 15 meters. The warrior's tiger eyes were sweeping across the boundless white snow. Chapter 749. The flag was bright red in color, and the design in the middle of the flag was improvised by Dong Huangli. Yi Hua was very satisfied with the design, and thus he decided to use his daughter's improvised design. Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji didn't object to it. Yi Hua even asked someone to sew the flag with gold thread to make the effect even more obvious. The design that Dong Huangli drew was a bit interesting. 2 blades crossed each other, and on top of the blade there was a heart. This was also what Dong Huangli wanted to express. The meaning of using weapons to protect one's home was warm, but it was also killing. According to Yi Hua's previous way of thinking, it would be a skull on top of two blades. This was his style. But now I feel that this is pretty good. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to use absolute power to protect my entire family and my loved ones. All of the work has been completed, and now, all that is left is for the people to enter the city. However, it has only been a month and there were only those elderly people in that boundless snowfield. This caused Yi Hua to be a bit disappointed. Why is there no one coming? There is actually no one coming to my territory. How is this possible? Could it be that you want me to go and distribute leaflets? Beg you to stay in Wushu Empire? Motherfucker. Yi Hua immediately called the Green and Red brothers into the palace. Right now the palace had already taken on a brand new look. The floorboards were found by Wei Chang and they were called 4 blue stones. The blue stones were extracted from the skin of a type of prehistoric divine beast. This type of skin would have different colors depending on the temperature. Furthermore, it would be warm in winter and cool in summer, and it was incomparably hard. It was simply the most suitable floor tile. The color of the surrounding pillars was red, but this was blood. This type of blood was also the blood of a prehistoric divine beast, and it was emitting out a strange fragrance. This strange fragrance would disturb the mind of a person. If the person was happy, the happiness in the person's heart would be magnified. If the person was afraid, the fear in the person's heart would be magnified. Of course, it was useless against people who were strong, but Yi Hua felt that it was a good smell. What was engraved on the red pillar was a lifelike divine dragon. This was a real dragon and it was not an ornament. As long as Yi Hua gave the word, the divine dragon would become a real dragon. With just a word from Yi Hua, 6 prehistoric divine dragons would instantly appear on the spot. The chair that Yi Hua was sitting on was naturally the dragon throne. The armrests were all claws, and above the back of the chair was a ferocious dragon head. The dragon head was staring straight ahead, giving off a strong deterrence. Right now Yi Hua was also wearing a golden gown, and he looked extremely handsome. However, right now Yi Hua finally understood why Dong Huang Baiji was so busy. Dong Huang Baiji had to take care of all the big and small matters by herself. In the beginning it was rather interesting. However, after a week, Yi Hua directly threw all the work to his 2 wives and went to teach the children. The Green and Red brothers trembled as they stood below with their heads slightly lowered. Behind them were their wives. 1 month. Why didn't I see the bustling and lively streets? I don't need to explain. What I want is the result. Yi Hua asked the Green and Red brothers in a deep voice. The Green and Red brothers didn't know how to explain this. Their wives had actually made a special underwear product. Oh my god. Their idea was really too crazy, but even if they made it, no one would buy it, so it was useless. On the other hand, His Honor had ordered that advertisements are not allowed. If advertisements were allowed, Green and Red brothers would have long gone to give out leaflets. Seeing that the Green and Red brothers were lowering their heads and not saying a word, Yi Hua asked gravely, "Just say it. What kind of cooperation do I need to have in order to restore the liveliness of this place?" "Your Honor, we need a wave of advertisements," Zishan said respectfully. "It is impossible for us not to advertise." Yi Hua didn't want things to be like this. It makes it seem as if I am begging them to come over and live in this place. However, if we don't advertise, it seems to be very boring for us to just wait here. LV Liang said respectfully, "Your Honor, we can go and take over a few small villages right now and let them know that there is such a place here. After letting them experience the environment here, the news will slowly spread out, and the surrounding people will come over and live in this place. If there is liveliness, there will be resources." Yi Hua tightly wrinkled his brows and after pondering for a long time he said, "You guys go and make the arrangements. If there isn't enough manpower, you guys can also call over other people." After the 5 heard what Yi Hua said, they were all delighted. As long as His Honor is willing to open up the conditions, things will be much better. I only need 1 month. I can guarantee that 1/5 of Wushu Empire will be able to live in this place. In just half a year's time, this place will be able to become popular. Looking at the Green and Red brothers leaving, Yi Hua sat on the dragon throne paralyzed. This position is truly not easy to do. How the hell am I supposed to be an emperor? This is not interesting at all. Forget it, it has been a long time since I went to look for you, Tom. I reckon that I will have to coax her again. During this period of time I have neglected you, Tom. What a pitiful little fellow, I will just let you eat my undergarments. Along with Yi Hua loosening up the policy, The Green and Red brothers brought along their wives and began to advertise in the surrounding areas of the city. The effect was quite good, and in just a week's time, Yihua could see figures appearing one after another at the city gate. This caused Yihua to be very excited. As expected, I, the Supreme Overlord, still have the way to rule a country. Even without relying on martial power, I am still formidable. Meanwhile, Wei Chang received Yihua's secret mission. After all, I am not here to play around with the way to rule a country. I am here to take revenge. The plan is about to begin. Outside Gouda Principality country at this moment, Wei Chang and Tang Wei walked onto the road, and the two looked at the city wall outside Gouda Principality country. In their hearts they only wanted to say that this city wall is too low. Compared to Wushu Empire city wall, this city wall is just plain and unadorned. The bluestone on the city wall was indeed very hard, but if it were to encounter a powerful figure, it would not be able to withstand a single blow. However, there were a lot of people here. Just like the road that Wei Chang was on, the road was filled with people who were entering the city. Some of the people were sitting on ordinary carriages, while the nobles were sitting on luxurious carriages. Furthermore, the weather here was not bad, unlike Wushu Empire, which was filled with snow. Uncle Wei, it has been a long time since we went out like this. Tang Wei said lightly while hugging onto Wei Chang's arm. After being together for more than 6 years, this Uncle Wei was simply not at all perturbed, not even touching onto Tang Wei's waist. Sometimes Tang Wei would even question herself, am I not good looking, am I not sexy? Even if the current Wei Chang was still very well behaved, he still didn't do something like hugging onto Tang Wei's waist. Sometimes Tang Wei really wanted to ask Lai Gu to teach Uncle Wei how to flirt with girls. Look at Zishan and Li Hun, how happy are they? Wei Chang said with a slight smile, Xiao Tang, we are here to complete the mission that his honor gave us. Tang Wei, Uncle Wei is just so unromantic and only I am able to endure it. If it was any other girl they would have long gone crazy. Uncle Wei, do you love me? Tang Wei said in a low voice and her tone carried hidden bitterness. Wei Chang went into a daze for a moment, then said, of course. Then why don't you express it? Express? Oh. Tang Wei, from the looks of it, Uncle Wei, you don't even love me anymore. Tang Wei was quite angered and sometimes she really wanted to knock onto Uncle Wei's head. However, she didn't dare to because her heart ached for Uncle Wei. Wei Chang lightly stroked onto Tang Wei's hair. Rest assured, if I don't love you anymore, I will notify you in advance. Chapter 750. Looking at the unhappy Tang Wei, Wei Chang lightly held onto her hand. I was just joking with you, don't take it seriously. Uncle Wei, I don't like this kind of joke. Tang Wei said very seriously. Wei Chang also realized that the joke just now was a bit too much. And I won't do it anymore. Uncle Wei, I want a child. Tang Wei also threw caution to the wind. Uncle Wei, just say it or not, I won't beat around the bush anymore. Child? Wei Chang was puzzled, he never thought that he would have a child. Tang Wei nodded her head, and child. Let's talk about it after this mission is over. Wei Chang had not thought it through, giving birth to a child was a big matter, he could not be too hasty. Tang Wei just wanted to enjoy the process of giving birth, but Uncle Wei actually did not fall for it. What kind of man could be so straight? A boyfriend who had been dating for 5 to 6 years and did not even touch him, how despairing would that be? Love also needed fertilization, only when the two of them were together can they be filled with happiness. Stop. Just when the two of them were talking about giving birth to a child, a city gate guard wearing a bronze armor shouted out. Wei Chang and Tang Wei looked at the man with a face full of stubble, they were a bit puzzled, there are so many people walking in, why did he stop them? The surrounding guards looked at them with a frivolous smile, as though they were already used to it. It was mainly because they were attracted by Tang Wei's appearance, that's why they were in a difficult situation. Wei Chang and Tang Wei came with a mission so they had to be careful. Big brother, what's the matter? Wei Chang's acting skills were not bad now, this kind of lowly attitude was simply done vividly. In addition, the two of them were dressed very plainly with one look, one could tell that they were the kind of people that were easy to bully. Where did you come from? The guard asked in a deep voice, his pair of tiger eyes staring at Wei Chang, as though he wanted to give Wei Chang pressure, because Wei Chang was quite cooperative. Wei Chang was uneasy, he pulled Tang Wei behind him, and Tang Wei also appeared to be afraid. This kind of expression made the guards even more happy, they liked to see these people being afraid. Big brother, we escaped from Ling Tai country. Wei Chang was terrified. The guard chuckled, Ling Tai country? That small place still hasn't disappeared? Wei Chang lowered his head and did not speak, while Tang Wei tightly grabbed onto the corner of Wei Chang's clothes, as though she was very helpless. The couple's acting skills were top-notch. The guard stretched out his hand. His meaning was clear. If he wanted to enter the city, he had to know his place. "Big brother, we really don't have any gold coins on us." "Then get lost. People like you are wasting the Gouda Principality's food if you enter the city." The guard sneered and gripped the spear in his hand. It seemed like he was going to attack if Wei Chang did not know what was good for him. There were also people like Wei Chang in the surroundings. When they heard the guard's words, their expressions changed slightly. However, they still lowered their heads and silently walked into the bustling Gouda Principality. Just as Wei Chang was thinking about how to enter the city, a luxurious carriage suddenly stopped, and a sweet-sounding voice sounded out from the carriage, "What's going on?" When the guard saw the grade of the carriage, he immediately knelt. This was the carriage of an earl, which was a powerful existence in the Gouda Principality. Moreover, from the sound of the carriage, it should be the young miss of the earl's mansion. He had heard that the young miss of the earl's mansion was a genius. Didn't she go to the Tianliang sect? Why did he suddenly come back? "Miss, it's nothing." The guard was a little nervous. "That's good." The voice of the woman in the carriage had a spirituality to it. From her voice, one could tell that this woman was very kind. "Follow me into the city." The woman's voice sounded out once again. This allowed Wei Chang to let out a sigh of relief. We can be considered to have entered the city using the normal method. Wei Chang and Tang Wei followed behind the carriage and entered the city. "Uncle Wei, the woman in the carriage seems to be very powerful. Should we?" Tang Wei said in a low voice. "This is a good opportunity." This time Wei Chang received the mission from his honor, and there was only one goal. To have Gouda Principality send out their army to attack Wuxia Empire, and Yi Hua wanted to use a war to make a name for himself in northern Liang. Yi Hua naturally knew that when my Wuxia Empire matures, Gouda Principality would naturally attack Wuxia Empire. However, that would take too long. After all, I have to arrange for someone from my side to enter Gouda Principality and start a rumor. Wei Chang naturally knew that his honor was already impatient to start a war, and thus he had to complete the mission as soon as possible. His original plan was to spread the news of Wuxia Empire within the city, and the news would naturally reach the ears of Gouda Principality's king. However, after encountering this woman who had power and influence, Wei Chang had another thought. "Let's see how the situation goes first," Wei Chang said in a low voice. The two followed the carriage and continued moving forward. Wei Chang and Tang Wei discovered that Gouda Principality was indeed bustling and overcrowded with people. The housing prices of houses were definitely ridiculously expensive. Compared to Wuxia Empire, his honor's territory was too cool. Even if the surrounding villages were to be attracted over, his honor's territory would still be very cool. Right now, Yi Hua was thinking of all sorts of ways to increase the population of Wuxia Empire. He even wanted to arrange for a monster to attack the city and flatten the other three countries, then drive all of the people into his territory. That would be perfect. However, doing that seems to be cheating. Am I that kind of person? What kind of joke is this? I want the people to be willing to come over and live in my territory. I will give them 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, and they will be able to enjoy the treatment of a resident. The carriage slowly arrived at the west side of Gouda Principality. Wei Chang and Tang Wei discovered that the west side of Gouda Principality was filled with big courtyards or mansions. With just a look, they could tell that those were the residences of high-ranking officials and nobles. After walking for a short while, the carriage stopped in front of a mansion. Wei Chang looked at the signboard. Mu Residence. On the bottom right of the signboard, there were 2 words printed. "Earl." "Uncle Wei, your background is quite big, Earl," Tang Wei said in a low voice. Wei Chang nodded his head. Male Z Earl Marquis Duke. This Mu family was an earl, and in Gouda Principality it was also a big family. A maid walked down from the carriage and placed a small wooden stool at the side. Then the maid stretched out her hand. A tender and small hand could be seen on the maid's hand. Then the maid stepped onto the wooden stool and got off the stool. Wei Chang looked at the girl. Her age does not seem to be more than 20 years old. Her skin was white, her cheeks were pink, and her temperament was refined. She was beautiful but not overbearing. Her entire body was pure white, just like a white lotus that was bathing in a snowy mountain. A trace of a smile could be seen on the corner of her mouth, giving off a kind of amiability and sweetness. Mu Ran looked towards Wei Chang and Tang Wei, who were at the back of the carriage. When Mu Ran saw Tang Wei, her gaze was filled with amazement. "What a beautiful girl. What are you two doing?" Mu Ran asked with a gentle smile. Wei Chang took a deep breath, then began acting. Chapter 751. Tang Wei was very surprised at Uncle Wei's eloquence. He was too amazing. In such a short time he could think of such lines. The maid beside her said softly, "Miss, Master and Madam are waiting for you inside." This maid had a mean look on her face. She looked at Wei Chang and Tang Wei with disdain. Especially when she looked at Tang Wei, she wanted to scratch her face. "Who told you to be so beautiful?" Mu Ran nodded her head and walked towards the door. The guard standing in front of the Mu mansion opened the door. Wei Chang and Tang Wei's heart sank. "Can't we sneak in?" Just when Wei Chang and Tang Wei were about to leave, Mu Ran shouted, "Come in with me, Miss." The maid behind her was very confused. Mu Ran said softly, "It doesn't matter if there are 2 more servants. You go and arrange it." The maid responded and looked at Wei Chang and Tang Wei with a venomous gaze. At this time, Wei Chang and Tang Wei were secretly happy. They finally sneaked in. "You wait here," the maid shouted coldly. She had a sharp mouth. One look and one could tell that she was not a good person. Wei Chang and Tang Wei did not say anything and stood at the side waiting. "Xiao Tang. Uncle Wei, what's wrong?" Tang Wei asked softly. "Think of a way to replace this maid." Wei Chang felt that it would be better to get close to this girl. Tang Wei was also not a good person. She nodded her head and replied. At this time Mu Ran walked into the main hall. She saw her parents and brother. Beside them sat a gorgeous man. She did not know him. "Lord Father, Lord Mother, Big Brother." Mu Ran bowed slightly and called out. "Ran, you are finally back." The woman looked at her daughter who she had not seen for 3 years. She walked over excitedly and hugged her daughter. The man sitting on the chair looked very gentle. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was Muangwa, an Earl of Guda Principality. Beside him was her brother Muda. He was a little thin. His eyes were a little dark. His face looked a little weak. He gave people a feeling that he often went to brothels. In fact, the Mu family was just a small baron. But Mu Ran had shown talent since she was young. Gradually she was noticed by the king. The Mu family also rose from baron to earl. Mu Ran was also sent to Tianliang sect to study. This month she came back to visit her family. She had not seen her family for 3 years. Mu Ran leaned into her mother's arms, her beautiful eyes a little red. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back," Huang Qiuhua said gently as she caressed her daughter. The gorgeous man sitting beside him smiled and said, "Lord Mu, it's really my good fortune today to be able to see the famous genius of the Guda Principality." Muangwa was already used to being called Ghost Genius. Even the king used this title. "My daughter is just a little smarter," Muangwa said humbly. Standing up, Xiaoyu smiled. "Then I won't disturb Lord Mu any longer." "Muda, send them off." "Yes, father." Mu Ran gave a slight bow to Xiaoyu as a form of sending him off. Since there were no outsiders around, Muangwa walked to his daughter's side and patted her on the shoulder. "Ranair, you've worked hard." "Father, it's not hard on me." Mu Ran held her father's hand and felt that it was much rougher. "How is the Tianliang sect? You weren't bullied, right?" Muangwa asked concernedly. He was most worried that his daughter would be bullied over there. He heard that the disciples of the Tianliang sect were all prideful and arrogant. Mu Ran said tenderly, "Father, how could that be? Senior brother and senior sister treat Ran Air very well, and the Tianliang sect isn't like what the rumors say, it's very well behaved." Hearing what their daughter said, her parents felt relieved. Huang Qiuhua held onto her daughter's hand and asked curiously, "Ran Air, are there any handsome boys in the Tianliang sect? You are almost 20 years old, other people at your age are already having children." "Mother, Ran Air is still studying, I haven't thought about it." Mu Ran laughed lightly. "Qiuhua, Ran Air is so outstanding you don't have to worry. Ran Air, have a good rest today. Tomorrow morning, go and pay a visit to the king." "All right, father, who was that just now?" Mu Ran asked curiously. Muangwa said in a low voice, "That was the royal family of Lingtai Kingdom, Xiaoyu." "Lingtai Kingdom? Why did the royal family of Lingtai Kingdom come to our house?" Mu Ran asked curiously. "Sister, you have been away for 3 years, there are a lot of things that you don't know." At this moment Muda walked into the house and laughed. With a smile on her face Mu Ran called out, "Brother? Sister, ever since you left that year the king revoked the protection he gave to Lingtai Kingdom." Muda said faintly, seemingly not taking what Muda said to heart. However, Mu Ran cried out in surprise. Muangwa knew his daughter's personality and said with a smile, "Ran Air, you just came back, Quickly go and take a rest, I will come and call you when the meal is ready. All right, father. Mu Ran nodded her head, then followed her mother back to the backyard. Muangwa looked at his son and said in a low voice, "What are you talking so much about? Don't you know that back then your sister tried her best to protect Lingtai Kingdom? Yet, right after Ran Er left, the king revoked the protection he gave to Lingtai Kingdom. If Ran Er were to find out about this, who knows what she would say?" "Father, I'm sorry. If you were half as smart as your sister, I would already be satisfied. Every day you only know how to fool around with your group of scoundrels." Muangwa reprimanded his son, then left. Muda's expression changed slightly as though he was unwilling to accept this. Ever since he was young, the one his parents praised the most was his sister. Even when he was described as a pile of shit, he didn't dare to say anything. With a gloomy mood, Muda walked out of the main hall and saw Wei Chang and Tang Wei waiting for him at the corner. When he saw Tang Wei, Muda's eyes were filled with amazement. This woman, so beautiful. Although she was dressed plainly, it couldn't conceal her beauty. Where did these two come from? "You are." Muda quickly adjusted his emotions. He was also a frequent customer of the brothel, and it was rare to see such stunning beauties. "Young master, we were brought here by young miss," Wei Chang said softly. "She was actually someone's wife. What a pity. What a pity." Muda shook his head and left as though he wasn't interested in someone's wife. "Why are you two still standing there like idiots? Come here." The maidservant shouted at Tang Wei. Her tone was harsh and it sounded like she was in a bad mood. This caused Tang Wei to be very unhappy as well. "I have to think of a way to deal with this matter." Wei Chang was arranged to chop firewood and Tang Wei was arranged to wash clothes. For the sake of his honor's mission, the husband and wife had no bottom line. Mu Ran returned to her own bedroom. The layout of her bedroom was the same as 3 years ago, there wasn't any change at all. It seems like there was someone cleaning the bedroom every single day. Chapter 752. He didn't expect the king to revoke the decree as soon as he left. "I remember that back then I gave a lot of suggestions to the king, solved all kinds of problems, and made the whole Gouda principality flourish. Lingtai Kingdom had not received any protection for 3 years, I reckon that it has already fallen. Just by looking at how the people from the royal family had fled here, one could understand." "Miss, madam is asking you to eat." The maidservant stood outside the door and shouted respectfully. "Got it." Mu Ran heaved a sigh of relief and walked out of the room. 3 years later, the family of 4 enjoyed the reunion dinner very much. Muangwa also picked some food for his daughter and asked with a smile, "Ran, how's your study in the Tianliang sect?" "Fortunately, under master's guidance, Ran has become a heavenly law doja," Mu Ran said softly. She said it in a very relaxed manner, as if the heavenly law was very easy. Muangwa laughed. "Heavenly law doja, not bad, not bad." After saying that, Muangwa was stunned. Not only Muangwa but his mother, Huang Qiuhua and Muda were also stunned. Heavenly law doja. Muangwa's voice was trembling as he looked at his daughter's indifferent appearance in disbelief. Muda grabbed his sister's hand and exclaimed, "You're really a heavenly Dao doja now?" Mu Ran chuckled and said, "Yes, the way of heaven." There wasn't a single elite in the Tao of heaven in the entire Gouda dukedom. His younger sister wasn't even 20 yet, and she was already in the Tao of heaven. Oh my god. The Mu family was about to rise. He had quite a lot of face outside. His younger sister was an elite in the Tao of heaven. Who dared to be disrespectful? Even the king had to treat it with caution. The heavens have blessed the Mu family. Huang Qiuhua cried tears of joy. She understood what the heavens meant. His daughter's future was limitless. Muangwa put down his chopsticks and looked at his daughter with tears of joy in his eyes. "Ran, you look great." "Lord Father, Lord Mother, Big Brother, don't be like this, Mu Ran was also a bit infected. I didn't expect that my parents would have such a big reaction. However, when he thought of how desperate it was when he advanced to become a doja, other than the disciples of the Tianliang sect, there were also other disciples fighting for the chance to become a doja. It could be considered a narrow escape from death to obtain the inheritance of the heavenly Tao. When he returned to the heavenly cold sect, he was praised by the sect master and his master was even more fond of him. An elite in the Tao of heaven. This was the treatment given to those in the Tao of heaven. "Ran, you've given face to the Mu family. Father, this is what Ran should do." Mu Ran smiled faintly. She seemed very normal and did not act high and mighty just because of her identity. She was a very amiable girl. The entire Mu family was immersed in joy as they looked forward to the next morning's morning court session. When such news spread, it would definitely shake the entire duchy of Gouda. Mu Ran's name would spread throughout the entire northern Liang. At this time, Wei Chang and Tang Wei were sitting on a small stool, gnawing on a steamed bun, and discussing the plan in a low voice. "Uncle Wei, I just asked around, this girl is more powerful than we thought." Tang Wei was still very smart. She knew that when she asked around, Wei Chang chopped firewood for an entire morning. How powerful. This Mu Ran is very intelligent and has the achievements of a great genius. At a young age, he has led troops to fight against the enemy and has a record of 10 victories. He is also very talented in governance and was sent to the Cold Sky sect 3 years ago. Wei Chang frowned slightly after hearing this. This Mu Ran was indeed a talent. Tang Wei said in a low voice, "Right now, his honor is in need of manpower. A girl like Mu Ran is very suitable. After all, we are lacking in governance." "Xiao Tang, you want to let this Mu Ran join the team?" Wei Chang asked puzzledly. "This idea is very special. But we still need to observe her." Tang Wei said in a low voice. Right now, the requirements to join the team was very harsh. If one does not meet his honor's requirements, one would not be able to join the team. "Then, have you ever thought about loyalty? You said it just now, she fought for this country, so she should have feelings for this country. Also, Cold Sky sect, would she be willing to serve his honor?" Wei Chang felt that it was very difficult to find a girl like this. Tang Wei said jokingly, "Uncle Wei, back then Zishan was not completely unwilling, but in the end, didn't she still join the team? That is because Zishan married Yi Hong." Speaking up to here, Wei Chang seemed to have understood what Tang Wei meant, and the corner of his mouth slightly twitched. So, Tang Wei was actually thinking of a honey trap? F***ck. "Xiao Tang, this idea of yours is too sloppy. His honor isn't going to be the matchmaker anymore." Wei Chang laughed lightly. "Uncle Wei, I didn't say that I want his honor to be the matchmaker, I just want to give it a try. It would be best if there is an effect, but if there is no effect, then forget about it. What do you think?" Wei Chang pondered for a moment. If this girl is truly talented, she will indeed be a good helper, and she will be able to solve a lot of his honor's problems. "Our team is all married. Aren't you afraid that their wives will beat them to sh*t? Wei Chang laughed bitterly. It seems like only his honor isn't afraid of his wife, the rest of the team are all being controlled by their wives. There's also me and that fellow Do Fusher. There are still people who aren't married? You aren't talking about Blood Demon, right? He is someone who is obsessed with cooking and isn't interested in women at all." "Uncle Wei, I'm not talking about Blood Demon, that..." Tang Wei blinked her beautiful eyes. Wei Chang's expression sunk. "You aren't talking about Yun Lang, right? Yun Lang is a dog." "Tang Wei, I am talking about Sky Red." Wei Chang immediately became speechless. "Xiao Tang, every time Sky Red sees a woman, he would call her a scumbag. If you ask him to come over, I am afraid that he will directly twist off Mu Ran's head. Luo Ho is still alright, he is also handsome." Wei Chang shook his head. "This idea of Sky Red's is not good. I am afraid that he might not be able to control himself and kill someone else." Tang Wei explained attentively, "Uncle Wei, it isn't good for Sky Red to continue like this. Ask him to come over, whether or not he succeeds will depend on his luck. If he succeeds, that would also be a wonderful thing. After all, Sky Red has been in pain for so long, and the knot in his heart is about to be untied." Wei Chang took a deep breath. "I don't have much contact with this Sky Red, but he is indeed a pitiful man. If there is someone who loves him, everyone would be happy and Yu Hua would also feel less guilty. Will this work? After all, Sky Red looks like that." Wei Chang was a bit worried. After all, in terms of appearance, Sky Red doesn't have any advantage at all. You don't understand, right? If one were to judge a person based on their appearance, that would be too superficial. Sky Red is a good man, and only a smart woman would be able to discover that Sky Red is a good man. Wei Chang looked at Tang Wei and suddenly laughed. "Xiao Tang, now that his honor isn't going to be the matchmaker, you came over to worry about Yin Lang. Does that mean that in the future, you will have to worry about Yin Lang's personal problems too?" Chapter 753. Alright, if you become Mu Ran's personal maid, I can arrange for Tsangkong Hong to join us. Hearing that, Wei Chang agreed. Tang Wei happily kissed him. "You're the one who said it. What are you two talking about? You are still eating. Hurry up and get to work." That harsh servant girl shouted arrogantly from the side. Wei Chang and Tang Wei quickly got up and started working. "What's the use of being pretty, Foxy? The maid snorted coldly, then turned around and left. Tang Wei pouted her mouth. I haven't been scolded by someone for a long time, I'm not used to it. I really want to punch that maid's head. Thinking back to the time when I was in God's realm, the might of that punch still makes my blood boil. When will I be able to fight again? I'm really looking forward to that scene. This Kangluo continent is such a good place. On this day, Wei Chang and Tang Wei kept busy and only went to sleep late at night. His honor's mission is really not simple. Early morning the next day, Mu Angua prepared to set off with his daughter Mu Ran. Today Mu Ran dressed up a little, she was pure like a lotus. This was not an act, Mu Ran was originally such a girl, she was spotless. Under the gaze of Mother Huang Qiuhua and brother Mu Da, the father and daughter sat on a carriage and headed towards the palace. Guda Principality's palace was a bit tall. This was not because the building was tall but because the terrain was relatively high. From afar, the entire appearance of the palace could be seen. In front of the palace, the father and daughter got off the carriage and walked into the palace. The surrounding people looked towards the father and daughter, especially when they saw Mu Ran. Their complexion was a bit bad. Because Mu Ran was too doted on by the king even sent her to Tianliang sect to study. Now that she suddenly came back, no one knew what was going on. Earl Mu Ranner is back. A slightly plump man could be seen walking over. Although this person was slightly plump, there was a mole at the corner of his eye, giving off a bad feeling. His sideburns were already white and he was at least 60 years old. Mu Angua hurriedly bowed, Marquis Ding. Mu Ran, who was following behind, also bowed, Marquis Ding. Ding Wenfu, a great hero, had a very good relationship with the king, but ever since Mu Ran appeared, the king and Ding Wenfu's opinions had diverged, causing Ding Wenfu to be dissatisfied. It's been 3 years. Ranner has grown taller and prettier. Ding Wenfu said with a faint smile. As he smiled, the mole at the corner of his eye rose slightly, giving off a gloomy feeling. Mu Ran said in a tender voice, Marquis Ding is also old but vigorous. The more you live, the younger you become. Ah, Ranner is still so good at talking. Why did you suddenly come back? How are your studies in the Tianliang sect? Ding Wenba asked curiously. Don't tell me I was expelled from the Tianliang sect. That would be a joke. Mu Ran said softly, I haven't seen my parents for 3 years. With my master's permission I came back to see them. So that's how it is. What a filial child. Earl Mu, you've given birth to a good daughter. Mu Angua chuckled and did not deny it. He generously accepted Ding Wenba's praise. When Ding Wenba saw that Mu Angua actually accepted it happily, he was slightly stunned. Does he really think he's someone important? If it wasn't for your daughter, you wouldn't be who you are today. A father's status depended on his daughters. Walking up the high steps, everyone stood in the hall waiting for the king. And these people were all discussing in low voices, discussing who, of course it was Mu Ran. His Majesty has arrived. A eunuch shouted out loudly with a duck-like voice. Everyone lowered their heads, and a middle-aged man who wore an emperor robe could be seen slowly walking out. His entire body was emitting out a majestic aura, and when he saw the petite figure below, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Yi Zichen asked straightforwardly, is this emperor's genius? According to Mu Ran's current identity, there was basically no need for her to salute. After all, she was currently a heavenly law's agent, and even the king had to be respectful to her. However, Mu Ran still kneeled down and saluted. Mu Ran pays respect to your majesty, long live your majesty. As expected of my genius, quickly get up, let me take a good look at you. It has already been 3 years since we last met. King Feng Yongzhang sat on the throne and didn't even care about the etiquette and directly greeted Mu Ran. From this, one could see Feng Yongzhang's attitude towards Mu Ran. This caused the old officials to feel a bit resentful. Isn't this a bit too, trusting a girl that much? Especially Ding Wenfu. During these 3 years, His Majesty had once again trusted me, and the moment this Mu Ran came back, His Majesty immediately changed. Thank you, Your Majesty. Mu Ran slowly stood up and raised her head. As expected of my genius, it has been 3 years since I last met you, and you have become so beautiful. I am too happy today. I will set up a banquet tonight to celebrate the return of the genius. Feng Yongzhang shouted out straightforwardly. He was truly happy and wasn't faking it. Towards this extraordinary girl, Feng Yongzhang had absolute trust in her. After 3 years of settling down, Mu Ran also knew of her current situation. Accompanying a monarch was akin to accompanying a tiger. Everyone understood this logic. Your Majesty is flattering me. Mu Ran said respectfully, neither servile nor overbearing. Mu Ran, how was your studies in Tianliang sect during these 3 years? Did you manage to step into the ranks of agents? Muangwa, who was within the crowd, revealed a smile on his face. At this moment, his daughter's name will spread throughout the entire northern Liang region. Mu Ran said calmly, thanks to your majesty's great fortune, Mu Ran successfully became a heavenly laws agent. Heavenly laws agent? Feng Yongzhang said confusedly, then suddenly looked towards Mu Ran. Say that one more time. Feng Yongzhang stood up excitedly. Mu Ran still maintained her composure, replying to your majesty, I am a heavenly laws agent. The entire palace became silent. Ding Wenfu was stupefied. This Mu Ran went out for 3 years. From a girl who didn't have any qi, she actually became a heavenly laws agent. How is this possible? Not only was Ding Wenfu stupefied, everyone present was stupefied, including the king. Feng Yongzhang walked in front of Mu Ran with a look of astonishment, then grabbed onto Mu Ran's hands. Say that one more time. What agent? Your Majesty, I am a heavenly laws agent. Mu Ran said tenderly. Feng Yongzhang suddenly laughed, then let out a wild laughter. The entire palace was filled with Feng Yongzhang's wild laughter. Good. This is great. A heavenly laws expert has appeared in my Gouda Principality. Mu Ran. Your name will spread throughout the entire northern Liang region. Feng Yongzhang waved his hand and said with a sense of heroism. Feng Yongzhang, who was excited, continued to sit on the throne. Mu Ran. I want to reward you. What do you want? I can satisfy you. Feng Yongzhang knew what heavenly law represented. The entire Gouda Principality was going to rise. Who cares about the other 2 principalities? Gouda Principality was going to be unified. Your Majesty, Mu Ran doesn't want anything, it's just that. Muangwa, who was within the crowd, slightly wrinkled his brows. He knew what his daughter wanted to ask. Mu Ran. I confer you the title of Gouda Principality's Saintess. Below only 1, above tens of thousands. Your Majesty. Ding Wenfu hurriedly shouted out. Chapter 754. Looking at His Majesty's expression, Ding Wenba hurriedly said, no. However, Mu Ran didn't want any status. She just wanted to know why the Lingtai Kingdom's protection had been revoked. Saintess, you should be 19 this year, right? Feng Yongzhang asked with a smile, as if he wanted to tie this heavenly Dao elite to his side. The moment the crowd heard the emperor's tone, they knew what he meant. By the looks of it, he wanted Mu Ran to marry into the royal family so that he could tie down this elite in the Tao of Heaven. It was a good idea, but was it really that easy to kidnap an elite in the Tao of Heaven? Mu Ran also knew what His Majesty meant and said softly, yes. Earl Mu, the Saintess, is still engaged? Feng Yongzhang asked. He really wanted to tie Mu Ran up to the imperial palace right now. With a heavenly law doja here, who would dare to invade? Muangwa walked out of the crowd and respectfully said, Your Majesty, the Holy Maiden is not engaged. Feng Yongzhang revealed a smile and said happily, My 4th prince is a man of striking appearance and is still unmarried. I believe the 2 of you are a perfect match. Everyone knew that among the emperor's sons, the 4th prince Feng Yun was the most outstanding. Originally, the position of crown prince was still empty, but looking at the current situation, it was certain that the position of crown prince would belong to the 4th prince. However, Feng Yongzhang's words could be considered as forceful execution. He had no intention of asking at all. In Feng Yongzhang's heart, he was the one who sent Mu Ran to the Tianliang sect. In return, it wasn't too much for her to marry his son. Therefore, he didn't think too much about it. Mu Ran's expression was still normal as he said, Your Majesty? But before Mu Ran could finish, she was interrupted by Ding Wenba. Your Majesty, the Holy Maiden means that her marriage must be approved by the Tianliang sect. As soon as he said that, the whole place quietened down and Feng Yongzhang's face darkened. Mu Ran was now a Heaven Dao elite and he definitely had a high status in Tianliang sect. It was impossible for Tianliang sect to let him go so easily. Although this sentence was said by Ding Wenfu, it was also Mu Ran's intention. This is completely provoking this empress. Muangwa's heart sank. This Ding Wenba. How dare he frame his own daughter and sow discord? Bastard. Muangwa hurriedly explained, Your Majesty, that's not what the saint meant. Feng Yongzhang ignored Muangwa. He looked at Mu Ran and asked, Saintess, can this emperor decide your marriage? Hearing this, Ding Wenba laughed in his heart. If Mu Ran said yes, then he would have offended the Cold Sky sect. If he said no, then he would have offended His Majesty. Only death awaited him. Fight with me, little girl. Mu Ran took a deep breath. This was a dilemma. She softly said, "Your Majesty, Master treats Mu Ran very well. I will report the marriage to the Cold Sky sect. I will listen to your Majesty's arrangements." Hearing Mu Ran's words, Feng Yongzhang immediately smiled and said, "The saintess is very intelligent, I like her very much." Everyone knew what Mu Ran meant. The Tianliang sect's influence was huge, and it was not something that the Gouda Principality could resist. Mu Ran's words meant that he would explain everything when he returned and then listen to the king's arrangements. This was also to avoid offending the Tianliang sect. She was very meticulous. Mu Ran did have this intention, but her biggest intention was to protect her family. Her parents were all living here, and they were His Majesty's hostages. If she did not obey, His Majesty would definitely use her parents to threaten her. However, she did not want to see the Tianliang sect attack the Gouda Principality because of her, causing the common people to live in misery. If a marriage could solve all of this safely, she would accept it. Ding Wenba did not expect Mu Ran to agree. It seemed that he had underestimated this little girl. If it was someone else, they would definitely use the Tianliang sect as a shield, and even His Majesty would not dare to make a move. A heavenly law doja actually agreed to this kind of thing. It was really unimaginable. A kind heart could really kill people. She had ruined her future here. What a joke. The morning court ended in a joyous atmosphere. There was still a banquet for His Majesty in the evening. At that time, His Majesty would introduce Mu Ran and Feng Yun. The father and daughter sat in the carriage and went home. They did not speak along the way. Muangwa knew how great his daughter's sacrifice was. She had sacrificed her own happiness for both sides, and she had even sacrificed her path to becoming a powerhouse. When they arrived at the Mu mansion, the father and daughter slowly got off the carriage and walked in. Just as they walked into the mansion, they saw a woman holding a whip, chasing another woman and beating her. It was that servant girl who was chasing Tang Wei and beating her. This was a scene that Wei Chang had carefully designed. It was also a burst of inspiration. It was taken from Tsun Takashi. Seeing this situation, Mu Ran's face instantly darkened. "What are you doing?" Tang Wei immediately shouted, "Miss, save me, I'm going to be beaten to death by her." Tang Wei's arm was purple and red, and it was even bleeding. This was a good tool. "Miss, this lowly servant girl stole food." The servant girl immediately shouted. Tang Wei pitifully explained, "Miss, she didn't give us food. I only took a steamed bun for my husband. Even if it's trash. You, a lowly servant girl, has no right to take it. This belongs to the Mu mansion. You two are shameless." "Enough." Mu Ran shouted. She rarely got angry, but today she could not hold it in. Which girl would face this kind of thing with a strong will? She was not a god. "Mississippi." The servant girl quickly knelt down. Mu Ran said coldly, "My Mu mansion does not need people like you. Miss, you can't chase me away because of an outsider, miss. Spare me." The servant girl instantly panicked. In the past, Miss would help her, but she did not expect that she would help that lowly servant girl. "I don't want to see you again," Mu Ran said in a low voice. She then helped Tang Wei up. "Follow me." Tang Wei trembled as she followed behind Mu Ran. Her acting skills were indeed top-notch. Even now she still showed a look of fear. As for the servant girl, she sat on the ground with a face of death. "Scram!" Muangwa shouted coldly. Very quickly, a servant threw the servant girl out. When Wei Chang saw this, he revealed a smile. Tang Wei's acting skills were getting better and better. She finally managed to sneak in. Mu Ran brought Tang Wei to her boudoir and took out some medicine. "Sit," Mu Ran said softly. Tang Wei shrunk to the side with a look of fear. This kind of expression was very normal in front of Mu Ran. "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you." Mu Ran squeezed out a smile. It was a forced smile. She was already injured to this extent, but she still had to take care of others. This was fate. She would rather hurt herself than see others get hurt. Tang Wei slowly sat down with fear in her heart. "Stretch out your hand," Mu Ran said tenderly. Tang Wei sincerely hoped that this girl would be good to her, if only Blue Sky Hong was able to woo her. Chapter 755. Mu Ran took out a healing ointment and applied it on Tang Wei's arm. Tang Wei bit her lips tightly, seeming to be in pain. "Bear with it, it is a bit painful," Mu Ran said lightly. Tang Wei nodded her head, her performance was on point. After a long while, the ointment was done and Tang Wei stood up. "Miss, thank you, there isn't much time left, I will go and do my work first." Mu Ran took a look at Tang Wei and said lightly, "You can stay by my side for this month." Tang Wei cried out in surprise, appearing to be a bit panicked. There are some things that cannot be taken the initiative and must wait for Mu Ran to bring it up herself. Tang Wei grasped this point very well. That servant girl was chased away by me, she needs someone to serve her. I'm afraid that I won't be able to do it well. Tang Wei seemed to be lacking in confidence, which suited her character very well. Mu Ran squeezed out a trace of a smile. Just slowly learn. Is it really possible? Young miss? Tang Wei asked with a terrified expression. This is really deceiving someone to death. Mu Ran nodded her head. Tang Wei finally revealed a smile. The plan is slowly progressing. Right now, Gouda Principality also released a piece of news, that was Mu Ran being promoted to Saintess. At the same time, it also meant that Mu Ran was now a Heaven's Law doer. However, the matter of marriage was not mentioned. After all, they were still afraid of Tianliang's sect. However, at this moment, Gouda Principality was in an uproar. Heaven's Law doer. That is a talent that is hard to come by in 100 years. For such a talent to actually appear in Gouda Principality, that is a blessing. In the future she will also become an overlord existence. The entire Gouda Principality entered into a festive atmosphere. Right now in the king's study room, Ding Wenba had an audience. Your Majesty, the matter of the Saintess is very thorny. I think that your Majesty needs to think carefully. Ding Wenba stood at the side and said respectfully. Feng Yongzhang was currently practicing calligraphy and asked faintly, how thorny? Your Majesty, Tianliang sect will definitely not let go of the Saintess. After all, a Heaven's Law doer is hard to come by in 100 years. If your Majesty forcefully arranged this marriage, and the Saintess goes back and whispers a few words, I'm afraid that our gains will not make up for our losses. For his own benefits, Ding Wenba was doing his utmost to harm Mu Ran. Feng Yongzhang stopped the brush in his hand and lightly placed it at the side, then walked to the side and sat down. He blew on the tea and took a sip. Mu Ran is my Emperor's Law doer. That is also mine. Hearing this, Ding Wenba was overjoyed. It seemed that the king did not intend to let Mu Ran go, even if it meant obtaining a corpse. How ruthless. Let's see what happens tonight, Feng Yongzhang said softly. He seemed to have rested well and walked to the side to practice his calligraphy again. Ding Bowen bowed and retreated. After watching Ding Wenba leave, Feng Yongzhang smashed the pen in his hand on the white paper. Mu Ran. Don't force this emperor. Feng Yongzhang muttered in a low voice. In a corner of the palace, the fourth prince, Feng Yun, was sitting on a stone bench, looking at a potted plant in front of him as if waiting for the flower to bloom. It had to be said that Feng Yun was still handsome and had an imposing appearance. There was a steady aura between his brows, and he was very manly. Congratulations, Your Royal Highness, the fourth prince. A eunuch suddenly ran over and knelt down. What's there to be happy about? Feng Yun asked lightly. Your Highness, the ghost talent, Mu Ran, has been conferred the title of Saintess by His Majesty. Her strength has even reached Heavenly Law Doja, and His Majesty has also expressed his intention to marry the Saintess to Your Highness. After hearing this, Feng Yun's expression changed, but it was not a happy expression. It seemed that he was worried about something. Alright, I understand. You can leave first. The eunuch was very confused. Why did His Highness not react to such a joyous event? Could it be that he did not like the Saintess? That shouldn't be the case. It was not that Feng Yun did not like the Saintess, but because he was not a local at all. It had been 18 years since he transmigrated here. This was his biggest secret. He had even obtained a summoning system that could summon virtuous generals. Although he had not summoned one yet, he would be able to do so soon. He did not think that his father would actually want the ghost talent to marry him. This secret could not be kept. It would not be good for that woman to know. After all, he was someone who was going to stir up a storm. How can I stop my footsteps because of a woman? A transmigrator like me will definitely receive the favor of beautiful women. Even if I don't go and look for a beautiful woman, there will still be beautiful women who will throw themselves at me. Just like this Mu Ran, this is a very normal beginning. I should first see if this Mu Ran is worthy of trust or not. After all, I am going to be a man with a very high status in the future. The woman beside me naturally cannot be too weak. However, thinking about it, this Mu Ran is also not a flower vase. I am only a Heavenly Law Doja with the help of the system, and even without, she still reached Heavenly Law Doja. From this, it can be seen that she is a very powerful woman. This kind of woman is a little hard to hold on to. If I manage to get my hands on her, she would be a great helper for me. I should first see if she has the qualifications or not. Right now, Wei Chang was naturally very happy. Tang Wei finally managed to sneak in today, and at the same time he also found out that this Mu Ran is a heavenly law dojo. Why didn't I see it before? Because Wei Chang felt that it is about the same because heavenly law dojo is still too weak. As for Tang Wei's suggestion, Wei Chang will report it to his honor. Right now Yi Hua was really lying in his sister-in-law's embrace, and Qing Yutong was happily peeling grapes for her brother-in-law, then sending the grapes into her brother-in-law's mouth. Wei Chang, are you saying that this girl called Mu Ran can be of use to me? Yi Hua said to Wei Chang through sound transmission. Wei Chang said respectfully, reporting to your honor from the current situation, this girl is indeed talented, and she has a lot of experience in the way of governing a country. Yi Hua ate the grapes that Qing Yutong peeled. What I need is loyalty. Can this girl called Mu Ran be loyal? You should know the answer in your heart. Thus, Xiao Tang gave a suggestion and subordinate would like to report it to his honor. Speak. Hearing Wei Chang's suggestion, Yi Hua slowly stood up. You are saying to have Blue Sky Hong go over? That's right, Blue Sky Hong will be able to help out a bit. If something happens, that would be even better. After all, a knot in one's heart needs to be undone. Let me consider for a bit. Yi Hua said lightly. Yes. Cutting off sound transmission with Wei Chang, Yi Hua lightly tapped on the bed with his index finger. Brother-in-law, what are you feeling vexed about? Qing Yutong obediently sat behind Yi Hua, and her pair of slender hands lightly helped Yi Hua relieve some of the pressure he was feeling. Yutong, how do you think Blue Sky Hong's knot should be undone? Yi Hua asked curiously. This was also for the sake of the harmony in the team. Right now, Blue Sky Hong might seem normal, but Yi Hua's eyes just can't tolerate a single grain of sand, and he hopes to see every single one of his subordinates being happy from the bottom of their hearts. Qing Yutong suddenly hugged onto Yi Hua and kissed him. Of course, it should start from a new relationship. Yi Hua laughed. With Blue Sky Hong's personality, who would like her? Chapter 756. Yi Hua felt that what Qing Yutong said was a bit reasonable. I will go out for a while first. So fast? Brother-in-law, why don't you spend more time with Yutong? Yi Hua pinched onto Qing Yutong's face. I will come over to accompany you in the afternoon. And brother-in-law, you can go and busy yourself. Yutong will wait for you. Yutong, you're still the most obedient. He of course, so brother-in-law, you have to treat Yutong well. Yes. Yi Hua nodded his head. After the message was sent to the room, Qing Yutong happily hugged onto the quilt and rolled around on the bed. Being together with brother-in-law is so comfortable. Right now, Yi Hua was naturally going to look for Kai Yun to understand the situation. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Right now, Kai Yun was the inspector of Voidless Empire. The department he had set up was called South Wuxia, and it was in charge of all matters within the city. Yi Hua raised his hand and asked, what about Sky Red? Your honor, I'm going out to do my duty. Kai Hong poured a cup of hot tea over, and Yi Hua took the cup and took a sip. Kaiyun, how has Red Blue Skies been doing lately? Behavior? That's normal, I guess. He likes to wear masks. Yi Hua said confusedly, wearing a mask? What do you mean by normal? It's just an old habit of mine. I'm afraid of scaring others by wearing a mask. Sure enough, he didn't like looking at any woman. He had a serious desire for revenge. This was a mental illness that needed treatment. If it continued to develop in the long run, something bad would happen. Kaiyun, do you think Blue Sky Red will accept a new relationship? After Kaiyun heard this, he pondered for a long time, then said respectfully, Your Honor, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. Sure enough, Kaiyun's thoughts were exactly the same as his main body's. This kind of man who was hurt by love was very hard to cure. Let nature take its course. Yi Hua said faintly. Kaiyun nodded. Right now, Tsang Konghong did not trust women and was traumatized. I'll have Tsang Hong help Wei Chang and the others in a while. Tell him to get ready. Yes, Your Honor. Yi Hua no longer harbored any hope. I'll just have to see how heavens will arrange his things for me. It would be good if there was a result, but if there was no result, then forget it. As for this girl named Mu Ran, whether or not she could be used by me would depend on her luck. Night gradually fell in the Gouda Duchy. Tonight was a national celebration. The king had invited his ministers to a banquet in the palace to congratulate Mu Ran on becoming a heavenly law-doer. Instead of saying that it was a blind date, it would be better to let the fourth prince, Feng Yun, and Mu Ran interact a little. As the saintess, Mu Ran sat at the bottom right of Feng Yongzhang. This was a very powerful seat, but Mu Ran didn't feel anything. Everything she did was for the common people. The fourth prince, Feng Yun, was sitting beside Mu Ran. From time to time he would take a sip of wine while observing Mu Ran from the corner of his eyes. I didn't expect that after not seeing you for 3 years, you'd shed that immature appearance and become more like a woman. Only this kind of appearance is worthy of a transmigrator like me. But if you want to become the first lady, it will depend on your ability to arouse this prince's interest. Mu Ran completely ignored Feng Yun, who was beside her. She didn't like this kind of marriage in the first place, so how could she take the initiative to speak? Everyone knew the purpose of this banquet. When Feng Yongzhang saw the saintess's attitude, he felt a little uncomfortable. This was like a child that he brought up suddenly became successful and didn't put him in his eyes. Mu Ran vividly played the role of a great master, and Feng Yongzhang didn't want Mu Ran to be better than him. Ding Wenba was very happy to see such a scene. The more the saintess didn't give him face, the angrier his majesty would be. It was normal for him to find someone to assassinate her. Saintess, is this dish not to your taste? Feng Yongzhang asked. She hadn't eaten a bite since she sat down. It was obvious that she was giving him a hard time. Mu Ran smiled. Your Majesty, I've been fasting recently, so I can't enjoy the food your Majesty has bestowed. When everyone heard the saintess's words, they sighed in their hearts. It was rare to see such an amazing woman. She was smart, and with just one sentence she made His Majesty lose his temper. Feng Yun, who was sitting next to her, also sighed. As expected of a genius, she had a sharp tongue. Is that so? That's because I didn't think it through. Feng Yongzhang chuckled. Your Majesty is busy every day, it's a blessing for the common people. There was nothing wrong with Mu Ran's reply. If Mu Ran was just an ordinary warrior, perhaps Feng Yongzhang would be happier. The main point was the heavenly Tao. Feng Yongzhang laughed. Yun, take the saintess for a walk. Yes. Feng Yun stood up and said respectfully. Mu Ran stood up and followed Feng Yun with graceful steps. Feng Yongzhang looked pensive as he watched the two leave. At this moment, Feng Yun was walking in front, and Mu Ran slowly followed behind. The two of them maintained a distance of 3 meters. The nights in northern Liang were usually cold, and the temperature difference between day and night was very big. However, Mu Ran was still wearing a white dress today, and it looked very light. Feng Yun naturally saw it and thought that Mu Ran wouldn't be stupid enough to wear so little. She was definitely giving him a chance. She was indeed a scheming woman. Was she so eager to climb into his bed? Then let me test her. She would definitely reject me. She must be playing hard to get. Feng Yun stopped and took off the velvet shawl from his shoulders. He said softly, Mu Ran, it's cold at night. Mu Ran said respectfully, Fourth Prince, there is no need. Fourth Prince, please take care of yourself and serve His Majesty in the future. What did she say? I knew you would reject me and then you lured my curiosity out. I've seen too many overbearing presidents. Since you don't want it, this prince will wear it myself. Mu Ran didn't say anything and continued to follow behind Feng Yun. Mu Ran, what do you think about the marriage? Feng Yun couldn't help but ask. He had lost to this woman in terms of patience. Mu Ran said softly, it's all up to you. Feng Yun sneered in his heart. In the future he would definitely become the king and sweep through northern Liang. He would even sweep through Tianliang sect and a larger territory. You little girl, you are still playing dumb with this prince. Could it be that if Imperial Father were to marry a beggar on the street, would you agree? If necessary, Mu Ran said softly. Her face didn't change at all. Pretentious. This was a woman who liked to be pretentious. She was a scheming bitch. If she knew his secret, she would shamelessly threaten him. Fortunately, he was smart. Let me send you back. There is no need to trouble your Royal Highness. I can go back by myself. Hee all right then. Be careful on the road. Mu Ran watched as Feng Yun left. His last sentence obviously had a different meaning. Was he threatening me? Or was he trying to express something else? Was it the king? Mu Ran took a deep breath. She felt that she couldn't breathe here. Mississippi, Tang Wei was waiting outside the palace. When she saw Mu Ran coming out, she took out a velvet shawl and draped it over Mu Ran. Chapter 757. Miss, what are you talking about? It is my duty to serve you. Tang Wei set up the stool. Mu Ran stepped on the stool and boarded the carriage. Tang Wei followed closely behind. Sitting in the carriage, Tang Wei curiously asked, Miss, you are now under one person and above tens of thousands of people. Why are you still frowning? Fame is just a worldly possession. There are many things that you can't do anything about. Mu Ran sighed. Compared to this place, Tianliang sect seemed to be better. Miss, what you said is too profound. I don't understand. Tang Wei expressed that she was new and cute and had a confused expression on her face. Mu Ran chuckled and said, "You'll understand later." Tang Wei nodded and walked back without saying a word. Half a month's time passed in the blink of an eye. Tang Wei and Mu Ran had also gradually become familiar with each other. This was good news. Song Konghong had also quietly entered the city and was waiting for orders. However, Song Konghong was completely unaware of her true mission. Ever since the last time when Mu Ran went to the Imperial Palace, she had not gone back to the Imperial Palace for half a month. Everything seemed to have returned back to normal, but Mu Ran didn't think so. Everything was too peaceful. At the Mu family, Tang Wei was currently grinding ink for Mu Ran. She said softly, "Miss, I recently have a cousin who also entered the city." Mu Ran slightly raised his head, seemingly thinking that Tang Wei wanted him to help her cousin. "That cousin of mine wants me to go back with him." Tang Wei paused for a moment, seemingly unwilling to part with Tang Wei. What a woman who knows how to act. "Go back? Lingtai Nation?" Mu Ran asked curiously. Tang Wei nodded her head. "My cousin told me that Lingtai Kingdom has changed completely. A new emperor has appeared and the people there are living very well. Their safety is guaranteed and they have ample food and clothing." "How is this possible? How could the Lingtai Kingdom survive without the protection of the Guda Principality?" Mu Ran exclaimed in disbelief. Tang Wei was also puzzled. "Yeah, when my husband and I came out, that place was already on the verge of destruction. This time my cousin said that that place is completely new." "Where is your cousin now?" Mu Ran felt that it was necessary to ask about the situation. After all, she had a deep memory of the Lingtai Kingdom and she wanted to know what had happened there. "At an inn in the east of the city. Take me to see him." Mu Ran stood up, seemingly in a hurry. Seeing Mu Ran's expression, Tang Wei felt relieved. After arranging the carriage, Tang Wei brought Mu Ran to the east side of the city. Blue Sky Hong was already in position. After quite a while, the carriage stopped at the side of an ordinary inn. Tang Wei helped Mu Ran down from the carriage and said lightly, "Miss, that cousin of mine is a mute and his appearance is a bit, so he is wearing a mask." "It's okay," Mu Ran said softly. She didn't care about these things. Tang Wei was delighted in her heart. It seemed like Mu Ran was not obsessed with appearance. This was a good thing. The two of them walked into an ordinary inn, and when everyone saw Mu Ran, the holy maiden, they all knelt on the ground and showed expressions of worship. On the second floor, Tang Wei pushed open a door. "Miss, it's here." Mu Ran nodded her head and walked into the room. The room was very ordinary. There was only a bed, a table and also 4 old wooden stools. At this moment, Song Konghong was standing on the balcony outside. His tall and broad body had his back facing the two of them as he looked in the direction of the voidless empire, giving off the feeling that he was missing someone. From this back view, it could be seen that this was a man with a story. Mu Ran paused for a moment. "This is Tang Wei's cousin? Why does he look so different? The aura that this back view is giving off feels even fiercer than master." Song Konghong, who was currently missing someone, didn't seem to have noticed that the two of them had entered the room, and he acted just like how he usually acted. However, even if he acted just like how he usually acted, ordinary people wouldn't be able to accept it, even the current Mu Ran. Tang Wei scolded inwardly. If Song Konghong was acting cool, it would be understandable. After all, this back view of Song Konghong is indeed very charming. However, this Song Konghong is missing Yu Hua. To not even notice that the two of us have entered the room, his acting skills aren't up to standard at all. Song Konghong didn't know how to act in the first place. Cough cough cough. Tang Wei coughed lightly. Song Konghong finally came back to his senses. A few days ago he received his honor's order to come over and take charge of protecting a person. Furthermore, he had to listen to Wei Chang's arrangements. And the person that he was protecting was about to meet with him today. Song Konghong turned around and a very ordinary iron mask could be seen on his face. The iron mask gave off a very heavy feeling. Ignoring the iron mask, it was a very masculine figure. Song Konghong's clothes weren't that strict, and his chest was completely exposed. His muscles that looked like they were sculpted by a ghost axe were filled with explosive strength. Every single muscle was so well proportioned, and that bronze-colored skin of his gave off an even more masculine charm. This caused Mu Ran to feel a bit embarrassed. After all, no one would dress like this, wrapping themselves up tightly. Furthermore, this person's overall temperament is very strange. Is this person really Tang Wei's cousin? "Young miss, because this cousin of mine doesn't know how to speak, and because he doesn't look good, his personality is a bit unsociable. Tang Wei hurriedly explained. Hearing Tang Wei's explanation, Mu Ran felt slightly relieved. Mu Ran was able to understand why a person like Tsang Kong Hong would act so indifferently towards others in order to protect himself. Tsang Kong Hong also saw the person that he was protecting, but he didn't say anything. In Tsang Kong Hong's eyes, Mu Ran was no different from a pink skeleton. Furthermore, Mu Ran's height was only 1.62 meters while Tsang Kong Hong was 2 meters tall. This was simply the cutest height difference. Very quickly, Mu Ran calmed down. Tang Wei, I want to ask your cousin about the matters regarding Lingtai Kingdom. All right. Tang Wei nodded her head, then said to Tsang Kong Hong, Tsang Kong Hong, this is young miss, she wants to ask you about the matters regarding Lingtai Kingdom. Tsang Kong Hong nodded her head, then picked up a pen and paper and started writing according to Wei Chang's script. Mu Ran quietly waited for Tsang Kong Hong to write, appearing to be very patient. After Tsang Kong Hong finished writing, Tsang Kong Hong passed the paper to Mu Ran. After Mu Ran saw the contents of the paper, her beautiful eyes froze. Right now, Lingtai Kingdom can no longer be called Lingtai Kingdom, it has been renamed to Wuxia Kingdom. To actually change its name to Kingdom, isn't this challenging the authority of Guda Principality? Mu Ran looked at Tsang Kong Hong and asked, what is the current situation regarding Wuxia Kingdom? Tsang Kong Hong continued writing. After Tsang Kong Hong finished writing, Mu Ran's brows tightly knitted together. The kingdom is prosperous and the people are at peace, and the kingdom has even expanded its borders. Isn't this, are they courting death? If His Majesty were to hear about this matter, something bad would definitely happen. Just what kind of people are controlling Lingtai Kingdom right now? Mu Ran felt that she had to go back and properly ponder over this matter. Tang Wei, you can't be thinking of going back right now, right? Tang Wei looked at Tsang Kong Hong. Mu Ran seemed to have understood what Tang Wei meant. How about this, you let cousin come to the residence and work together with Wei Chang, what do you think? Chapter 758. Why are you standing there like a fool? Hurry up and thank Mississippi, as the saying goes, acting must be done properly. Tsang Kong Hong nodded her head, expressing her gratitude. However, Mu Ran still had a lot of things that she needed to understand, so she kept asking Tsang Kong Hong questions along the way, inquiring about the current situation of Wushu Empire. Just after returning to the Mu residence, Mu Ran looked towards a stranger. If she remembered correctly, he should be the royal family that escaped from Lingtai Kingdom. Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu seemed to be discussing something with her father. Mu Ran let Tang Wei bring Tsang Kong Hong to rest first, then walked into the hall. Father. Mu Ran greeted respectfully. Xiaoyu, who was sitting at the side, directly kneeled down and shouted with a pleading tone, Saintess, Lingtai Kingdom still needs you. Mu Ran immediately took a look at her father. Muangwa didn't say anything. Stand up and talk. Mu Ran said gently. Thank you, Saintess. Xiaoyu stood up and said with a pitiful look, Saintess, I wonder if you have heard of Wushu Empire, the previous Lingtai Kingdom. Wushu Empire? Mu Ran acted as if she had just heard about it, wanting to see what Xiaoyu wanted to say. Saintess, I hope that Saintess can help us. Right now, a group of people is occupying Lingtai Kingdom and even changed the name of the kingdom to an empire. This is clearly disrespecting His Majesty. Mu Ran finally understood. This Xiaoyu saw that Lingtai Kingdom was revived and wanted to snatch it back. He is truly a man who knows how to sail with the wind. Back then, when Lingtai Kingdom was threatened, why didn't you act like this? You even escaped. How did you know about this? Mu Ran asked curiously. Xiaoyu said respectfully, this news has been spreading on the streets for a few days, Saintess naturally wouldn't know about it. Mu Ran looked towards her father, why didn't he tell me about this? Muangwa was afraid that his daughter would offend His Majesty for Lingtai Kingdom, causing His Majesty to ignore him. Xiaoyu, don't worry, I will report this matter to His Majesty. Thank you so much. Xiaoyu hurriedly kneeled down, truly sincere. Hearing Muangwa's reply, Xiaoyu felt relieved and left for the time being. Father, why are you helping him? Mu Ran asked curiously. Her father's actions were very strange. Ran, father isn't helping him, I'm helping you. Help me? Mu Ran was confused. Muangwa nodded. His Majesty's attitude towards you is getting worse. You need a beautiful battle to win back His Majesty's trust. Father, you want me to bring troops to attack Voidless Empire? Mu Ran was startled for a moment. Her father's idea was truly terrifying. Muangwa didn't deny it. Mu Ran, I know that you often defended Lingtai country in the past, but you have to know that Ling Tai country has now become voidless empire. Even if you don't go, His Majesty will still send someone else. Do you understand? This is an unavoidable battle. Mu Ran didn't expect the news to spread so quickly. What should she do? If the two sides really fought, the ones who would die would be the commoners. Mu Ran didn't say anything. I feel that my father has changed a bit. In the past, my father had always supported me, but now, my father actually wants me to lead the army to attack an affiliated country. No, it was invasion because the Gouda Principality had long expelled the Lingtai Principality from being a vassal state. If that was the case, there was no reason for the Gouda Principality to send troops. The one who spread the news was naturally Wei Chang. After all, it was about time for the Gouda Principality to act, and it would be up to how the Holy Maiden would act. His Honor was waiting to see how the Holy Maiden would act as a test to enter the team. For the entire afternoon, Tang Wei accompanied Mu Ran. Putting aside the fact that Mu Ran was lying, Tang Wei felt that Mu Ran was a good girl, just that Mu Ran was too worried. Mu Ran had always been thinking about problems from other people's point of view, abandoning her own point of view. If this goes on, Mu Ran will definitely hurt herself. Young miss, you should eat something, you didn't even eat lunch. Tang Wei said in a low voice. I can't eat. Mu Ran said faintly. I want to go and see what exactly happened to Ling Tai country, what kind of huge change happened to Ling Tai country, and whether or not the rumors are true. Tang Wei discovered that when she was already so old, she was still concerned about the affairs of the country. The curtain of night gradually descended, and Muangwa could be seen shouting from outside, Ran His Majesty is holding an emergency meeting. Mu Ran opened her beautiful eyes. Seems like His Majesty is going to make a move. Father, I understand. After changing their clothes, Tang Wei accompanied Mu Ran and walked out of the house. Just when they walked out of the house, Mu Ran saw Tsang Kong Hong, who was leading a horse. Young miss, most of the things in the residence have already been taken care of, so I asked him to come over and be a coachman. Tang Wei explained. That's fine too. Young miss, you can be at ease, this cousin of mine has also cultivated before, and he is even a doer. Tang Wei said with a smile. No wonder, so he is a doer. Get on the carriage first. All right, young miss. Very soon, the carriage arrived at the entrance of the Imperial Palace. The father and daughter got off the carriage and walked into the Imperial Palace. Tang Wei and Tsang Kong Hong were waiting outside. I wonder what will be the result of their discussion today. Will they directly start the war? Will the one leading the army be Mu Ran? Right now, Tang Wei was a bit worried about Mu Ran. If Mu Ran really went to the Imperial Palace, other than her, everyone else would have died in that snowfield. Will Mu Ran be able to accept such a blow? Looking at that petite back view of Mu Ran, the burden on her shoulders is too much. Girls at this age should just talk about love and enjoy the care and concern of their boyfriends, but for me, different times create different people. The father and daughter walked into the palace, and on the way they did not speak a single word. From the looks of it, they had a disagreement. Following Feng Yongzhang's arrival, everyone kneeled down and shouted, "Long live your majesty. My beloved subjects, please rise." Feng Yongzhang said gravely. Thank you, your majesty. The reason why I called all of you here tonight is because my spies have already verified the rumors. Speaking up to here, Feng Yongzhang paused for a moment, and the atmosphere immediately became tense. Wuxia Empire does indeed exist. Hearing what His Majesty said, everyone's expression sunk. This is a provocation. To actually establish an empire. Feng Yongzhang slammed onto the armrest of his throne. This Wuxia Empire sure has guts. To actually establish an empire without my consent. Do they even put me in their eyes? Ding Bowen cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty. Wuxia Empire is going against their superior. As long as the Saintess is willing to lead the army to the Imperial Palace, we will definitely take back the lost land. So despicable. 3 years ago they already abolished Lingtai Kingdom's status as a subsidiary kingdom, and now they are saying that Lingtai Kingdom lost land. They are too shameless. At the very least Mu Ran thought so too. Feng Yongzhang waved his hand, and the head eunuch who was at the side shouted out, Xiaoyu has an audience. Xiaoyu could be seen walking into the palace while trembling with fear, then shouted out respectfully, Long live your majesty. Let me ask you, is Xia family the royal family of Lingtai Kingdom? Replying to your majesty, yes. Chapter 759. One needed a reason to start a war, and Xiaoyu was the best reason. He was the legitimate royal family of Lingtai Kingdom, and right now he was helping Xiaoyu to recover Lingtai Kingdom and kill the traitor. Of course there was another reason. Saintess, I order you to lead 100,000 elite soldiers to recover Lingtai Kingdom. In the past, the order that Mu Ran received was to resist the invasion of other kingdoms, and that was her duty, but today she was going to invade another kingdom. Mu Ran said respectfully, Your Majesty, Lingtai Kingdom was no longer a subsidiary kingdom of Guda Principality 3 years ago, so this is not recovering, this is an invasion. Hearing what Mu Ran said, everyone's expression changed. Saintess is openly offending His Majesty. This is a huge crime. Muangwa's face was also deathly pale as expected. My daughter still said it. Ding Wenba grabbed onto the opportunity and shouted out angrily, Saintess, you dare to refuse His Majesty's order. And you are even disrespecting His Majesty. Feng Yongzhang's face was gloomy, but he was already furious in his heart. Mu Ran's position in his heart had long changed. Starting from Tiandao Duer, he no longer trusted her. I don't dare. Your Majesty, the situation is unclear right now. I hope that Your Majesty will allow me to go and negotiate by myself. Mu Ran's words caused everyone in the palace to start discussing amongst themselves. It was very easy for something to happen if she went to negotiate by herself, and she might even lose her life. This saintess is too daring. Mu Ran just wanted to go and see if Wuxia Kingdom was good or bad, and if the commoners there had any complaints. If Wuxia Kingdom was ruthless, Mu Ran would have immediately led the army to attack, but if Wuxia Kingdom was thriving and the commoners were living in peace and contentment, then why did they have to start a war? After all, Guda Principality no longer cared about Lingtai Kingdom 3 years ago, and there was no need for them to interfere now. Xiaoyu, who was kneeling on the ground, cursed inwardly. His Majesty already said to let you lead the army, and you are actually disobeying the order and want to go alone. Feng Yongzhang pondered for a while, then said faintly, Saintess, have you made up your mind? Your Majesty, I have made up my mind. I hope that Your Majesty will allow me to do so. Mu Ran knelt on the ground and said respectfully, All right. I will order you to negotiate with Wuxia Kingdom. Let's wait for the Saintess to come back, then we can discuss it. Feng Yongzhang's eyes were deep as if he didn't want Mu Ran to come back. This was the best result. If I can't obtain Tiandao Duer, then no one else can. Long live Your Majesty. As Feng Yongzhang left, everyone looked at Mu Ran in a different light. If Mu Ran had agreed to lead the army to attack and return triumphantly, His Majesty would have been very pleased. However, she chose to offend His Majesty and go alone. That was a narrow escape from death. He really didn't know what this saintess was thinking. Muangwa walked forward and helped his daughter up. Silly child, why didn't you agree to His Majesty? Father, I thought you understood me. Mu Ran said softly. This caused Muangwa to pause. His expression changed a bit. In the past, I and my daughter always had the same thoughts and would often discuss ways to solve the problem, but now, in order to let my daughter please His Majesty, the way I think about it has already changed. Looking at his daughter's lonely figure, Muangwa took a deep breath and followed. At this moment, Tang Wei was waiting anxiously. Song Kong Hong was leading his horse and looking up at the sky, seemingly thinking of a certain someone. Looking at the people walking out one after another, Tang Wei discovered that their faces were either smiling or gloomy. She didn't know what was going on. After waiting for a long time, he finally saw Mu Ran's figure. Mississippi, Tang Wei hurriedly walked up to Mu Ran. She even felt a little sorry for this little sister Mu Ran. Tang Wei, let's go home first. Tang Wei discovered that Mu Ran seemed to be very tired. Even her tone was filled with tiredness. After Muangwa arrived, the three got onto the carriage and Song Kong Hong became the coachman. Inside the carriage, Muangwa looked at his daughter and said lightly, I will go and beg His Majesty tomorrow. Father, there's no need for that, I will set off for Wuxia Empire tomorrow. Mu Ran said faintly. Tang Wei revealed a surprised expression. Mu Ran is going to Wuxia Empire. Judging from her tone, it seems like she is going to be going alone. My God. Mu Ran's courage is so big. Right now, Tang Wei truly admired Mu Ran. Girls like Mu Ran are truly rare. Just that, according to his honor's plan, Mu Ran should be leading an army to Wuxia Empire, and shouldn't be going alone. This is a bit troublesome. Ran, if you go. Muangwa knew the consequences. If I go, I might not be able to see my daughter again. Father, don't tell mother about this matter in case she gets worried. You can be at ease, I will be fine. No matter what, I am still a heaven's laws doer. It won't be that easy for something to happen to me. Mu Ran appeared to be very confident, but this was all for her father to see. I don't even know what is going on in Wuxia Empire. This is no different from sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. Right after Mu Ran finished speaking, the horse actually let out a neighing sound. Mu Ran's beautiful eyes became serious. Father Tang Wei, you two don't go out. After finished speaking, Mu Ran walked out of the carriage and 10 black-clothed men could be seen in the surroundings. Each of the men was holding onto a shiny blade. They were emitting out ice-cold killing intent. Song Kong Hong stood beside the carriage and observed the situation indifferently. "Doer sure," Mu Ran said gravely. "I have a bad feeling about this. Doer sure is a high and mighty existence. How did they end up becoming assassins?" One of the black-clothed men could be heard laughing. "As expected of the heavens' laws, Saint Doer, to be able to see through our strength with a single look." "Who sent you here?" Mu Ran asked coldly, although she didn't have much hope. "So what if we know, so what if we don't know? That is no longer important. Kill." The black man shouted out coldly, and the black man immediately erupted with ferocious Doer Chi and attacked Mu Ran. Their target was very clear and there was no hesitation at all. Meanwhile, Mu Ran's gaze darkened, and a green longsword condensed in her hand. Tang Wei, who was sitting inside the carriage, was a bit nervous. She wasn't nervous about herself, she was nervous about Mu Ran. With Song Kong Hong protecting her from outside, there shouldn't be any problem. However, Song Kong Hong currently has the strength of a Doer sure. If she were to display her strength, it would be very easy for her to be discovered. Muangwo was very worried about his daughter, and he clenched his fists tightly. "Song Kong Hong, protect the carriage properly. Leave this place to me." Mu Ran shouted towards Song Kong Hong, and the green longsword in her hand drew out many ripples. As expected of a heaven's law Saint Doer, she indeed has the strength to fight against a Doer sure. However, there were 10 Doer sure present. No matter how powerful Mu Ran was, she would still be killed. "Lightly dancing snow." Mu Ran shouted out, and her entire body became like an illusion. However, this kind of illusion appeared to be in a slow state. This caused the expressions of the 10 Doer sure to sink, and they thought to themselves, "Heaven's law Saint Doer is indeed powerful." Their guess was right. Mu Ran, who was in a slow state, suddenly became faster, and the sword in her hand directly cut open the throat of a Doer sure. Mu Ran's breathing was a bit hurried. This move consumed too much of her Doer Chi, but in the end she still managed to kill a Doer sure. Just when Mu Ran was relaxing, a killing intent suddenly came from behind her, and the moonlight shone on the blade and silver light flickered. Chapter 760. However, at the same time, all of Mu Ran's escape routes were blocked by the 8 battle masters. Mu Ran could dodge this attack by force. But how was she going to dodge the other 8 attacks? These 10 people set up an inescapable net by sacrificing a battle master. Tonight, the fall of a young Heaven's Law Doja, and her Heaven's Law Doja would become someone else's tool. At this moment, Mu Ran also felt a bone-chilling coldness. "I fell into their trap. I shouldn't have exploded my Do Chi just now. But now I am actually in such a passive position. What should I do? I can only resist. I have no other ideas." Just when Mu Ran was planning to risk her life, a huge figure appeared in front of her. That tall and straight figure blocked the moonlight. Mu Ran slightly raised her head and looked at the black figure. It was Song Kong Hong, who was wearing an iron mask. This beautiful scene suddenly appeared. Mu Ran's gaze carried a sense of loss as he looked at Song Hong. Song Hong's enormous body was like a large mountain that covered Mu Ran's front, appearing to be the toughest shield. In the air, 9 Do Shure's hands were holding blades as they hacked at Mu Ran. The silver-colored blade glows were filled with terrifying Do Chi. Tang Wei, who was sitting in the carriage, saw this scene. Because she was hesitating to act just now, she felt relieved when she saw Song Kong Hong. Originally, she was worried that they wouldn't be able to cross paths, but now, it seems like they are destined to be together. Song Kong Hong's current mood was very complicated. "If I can poke them to death with just a finger. But Wei Chang said that I am currently in the realm of a battle master. If I poke them to death with just a finger, wouldn't I be exposed? This is his honor's plan, I can't expose it. This little thing is too weak, so I can only..." Song Kong Hong had no choice but to pull Mu Ran, who was in a daze, over to him. His enormous body enveloped Mu Ran under his chest. Boom. All 9 blades landed on Song Kong Hong's back. In order to achieve the effect of a battle master, Song Kong Hong lowered his own defense to the lowest level. If not, they wouldn't even be able to cut his skin. Immediately, a wave of Do Chi swept out and spread out. The petite Mu Ran seemed to be able to feel the violent impact and could even hear the sound of flesh being cut open. Mu Ran also knew that this wasn't the time to be touched. Her petite body immediately moved away from Song Konghong and brandished the green long sword in her hand crazily. The two dumbfounded Do Shi were instantly killed. Why were they dumbfounded? Because they'd just witnessed an inconceivable scene. When the blade chopped the man's back, sparks actually appeared. Although it was only for a moment, it was still shocking. What was this person's skin made of? Under the full force attack of a Do Shi, sparks had actually appeared. Although his skin and flesh were still cut open in the end, the sparks were definitely not an illusion. Retreat. The leading Do Shi gave the order without hesitation. His intuition told him that this man was very terrifying, and the assassination attempt tonight could not continue. The remaining 7 Do Shis immediately disappeared into the dark night sky. Song Konghong also let out a breath of relief. According to the extent of my injuries, I shouldn't be able to stand up, so, Blue Sky Red collapsed. Tang Wei also heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, if those people didn't leave, it would be a troublesome matter. I reckon that Uncle Wei will have to send some kind-hearted black-clothed men away. A series of footsteps came from afar, and the defense army finally appeared. Saintus, please forgive us. The leader shouted out while trembling with fear. Mu Ran knitted her brows and raised her hand. With her petite body, Mu Ran actually carried Blue Sky Red on her back. Blue Sky Red's back that was dripping with blood was a ghastly sight. After placing the unconscious Blue Sky Red on the horse, Mu Ran drove the carriage and quickly returned home. Ran, are you all right? Muangwa, who was in the carriage, asked. I'm fine. Mu Ran said gravely and looked at the reckless Blue Sky Red beside her. It's good that you are fine. Muangwa let out a breath of relief. As long as my daughter is fine, I don't care about a coachman like Blue Sky Red. If she really died, I will definitely give her a sum of money. However, to Mu Ran, Blue Sky Red was her savior. If it wasn't for Blue Sky Red stopping her just now, it would probably be impossible for me to be sitting here and talking. After arriving at the Mu residence, Mu Ran directly jumped off the carriage and carried Blue Sky Red's huge body and ran into the Mu residence, leaving a trail of blood on the ground. Tang Wei immediately followed after Blue Sky Red, and a smile appeared on her face. I hope that this is a new beginning. Right now, Blue Sky Red, who was pretending to be dead, was also a bit annoyed. This little guy is actually carrying me and running. This is making me feel very uncomfortable. The mission that his honor gave me is too difficult. Mu Ran arrived at her own bedroom and directly placed Blue Sky Red on her bed. Mu Ran didn't show any disdain towards Blue Sky Red at all. Tang Wei, quickly bring over my medicine chest. Mu Ran hurriedly shouted. Tang Wei cooperated with Mu Ran and asked worriedly, Miss, is my cousin all right? I don't know. Mu Ran looked at Blue Sky Red's badly mutilated back and was a bit puzzled. Under the full strength of 9 Do Shi, is it only badly mutilated? Tang Wei saw through Mu Ran's puzzled expression and said, Miss, this cousin of mine has a tough body since young, he shouldn't die, right? Don't worry, I will do my best. Mu Ran hurriedly smeared medicine on Blue Sky Red's back and took out an exquisite bottle. Within the bottle there was a pill. This pill was the life-saving pill that her master gave her. Mu Ran seemed to want to take off Blue Sky Red's mask, while Tang Wei shouted, Mississippi, I will feed him the medicine. Mu Ran said in a low voice, then took off Blue Sky Red's iron mask. And when Tang Wei saw that Blue Sky Red's fists were tightly clenched, she feared that Blue Sky Red would smash Mu Ran's head with a single punch. Speaking of which, Blue Sky Red was thinking this way in her heart. This woman actually dared to take off my iron mask without my permission. I really want to strangle her neck. And when Mu Ran saw Blue Sky Red's face, she went into a slight daze for a moment, then fed the pill that was in her hand into Blue Sky Red's mouth. Tang Wei, who was at the side, closely observed Mu Ran's expression. She discovered that Mu Ran was only slightly surprised for a moment, then her expression became normal, and Mu Ran's gaze was filled with concern. Rest assured, seems like this Mu Ran isn't someone who only cares about looks. Mu Ran immediately inspected Blue Sky Red's body, and discovered that Blue Sky Red's breathing is very smooth. Is the effect of the medicine that good? Feels like it is just a normal flesh wound. There's no choice, Blue Sky Red can only act like this. Am I going to be chopped into pieces? It should be fine, your cousin's body is very tough, he can block the attack of 9 Do Shi. Mu Ran said softly. Tang Wei felt that Mu Ran was a little suspicious. This is not a good thing. Miss, my cousin was born like this isn't an illness, right? Tang Wei's acting skills are still up to standard. If she let Wei Chang cooperate now, it is possible that she will be exposed. Chapter 761. Tang Wei was delighted. That would be my cousin's fortune. Right now, Song Kong Hong didn't even know what she should say anymore. Just how long is he going to protect me? Mu Ran did not say anything. She sat by the bed and observed Cerulean Red's condition. After a long time, she found that her condition had stabilized. Tang Wei, go back and rest first. Mu Ran said softly. Miss, let me go with you. It's fine. I'll just watch over here. Mu Ran felt that the other party was doing this to save her, so it was normal for him to take care of her. Of course Tang Wei wouldn't be a third wheel, and miss, you should rest early too. Mu Ran nodded. Tang Wei walked out of the room and gently closed the door. If Firmament Hong was as good at flirting as Lai Gu, this Mu Ran would definitely not be able to escape from him. It was a pity that Song Kong Hong did not know how to speak at all. He was the kind of person who did not know how to flirt and could even kill a conversation. He didn't know if Mu Ran would like Sky Red. In the room, Mu Ran sat by the bed and observed from time to time. This wasn't love, it was a kind of gratitude. Although it was not to the extent of liking him, Mu Ran at least had a good impression of Blue Sky Hong. From a stranger to her savior, this was already a huge leap. Song Kong Hong didn't want to lie down. She didn't even want a little girl to take care of her. She felt embarrassed. However, he had no choice but to do so, and this little girl would observe him from time to time, making him even more depressed. At this moment, Mu Ran was thinking about who had sent these people. To be able to call out 10 spirit masters, they were definitely not ordinary people. The fourth prince? I don't seem to have any conflicts with him. Your Majesty? He had just walked out of the palace gates when he was attacked. This was a little illogical. Furthermore, he was going to Voidless Empire, and it was uncertain whether he would be able to return alive. His Majesty's actions were completely unnecessary. Perhaps it was because he was a heavenly law doja, and assassins from the other two countries were more likely. It seemed like he had to conceal his identity as a heavenly law doja from the very beginning. He did not expect that it would not only attract the suspicion of His Majesty, but also attract the suspicion of others. If a Grand Doja came tonight, something bad would happen. Fortunately, it's all thanks to him. Mu Ran took a look at Song Kong Hong, who was on the bed, then lightly leaned onto the side of the bed and closed her beautiful eyes. My heart is tired. Song Kong Hong, who was lying on the bed, did not dare to move at all, as if she was afraid that she would be discovered. The next morning, Mu Ran abruptly opened her beautiful eyes and discovered that it was already morning. She then looked at Sky Hong, who was lying on the bed, and observed her. Sky Hong was recovering very well. With a sigh of relief, Mu Ran stood up and prepared to wash her face. A sound came from the bed. Mu Ran turned around and saw Song Kong Hong sitting up and putting on the iron mask again. You can't get out of bed yet. You need to rest. Mu Ran hurriedly walked over to persuade him. Song Kong Hong had had enough last night. She really didn't sleep the whole night and was very careful. Shaking her head, Song Kong Hong ignored Mu Ran's advice and walked out of the room. Mu Ran lightly sighed. Tang Wei's cousin's personality was indeed very eccentric, but his recovery ability was too strong. Or could it be that the medicinal pellet given by teacher was more powerful? Miss? At this time, Tang Wei came over with water and asked curiously. Your cousin seems to be almost recovered. Mu Ran still chose to believe in the power of the pill. That's great, I thank you on behalf of my cousin. No need, it was your cousin who saved me. I should be the one thanking you. Mu Ran said with a smile. After washing her face, Mu Ran said indifferently, Tang Wei, help me pack up my baggage. Miss, are you going now? Tang Wei hurriedly asked. And Tang Wei, you and your husband should live a good life here. Mu Ran planned to go alone. After all this time, it was normal for her to die. Of course Tang Wei wouldn't stay here. Miss, I'll go with you. Tang Wei, there's no need. It's very dangerous for me to go this time. Miss, I'm not afraid of danger. Mu Ran chuckled. Tang Wei, there's really no need. Miss, if you go alone, what will happen if there's no one to take care of you? Furthermore, I'm very familiar with that place. Furthermore, my cousin called us back. I also want to go and take a look. This is also on the way. Tang Wei forcefully explained. Mu Ran pondered for a moment before saying, after entering the city, don't follow me. It's very dangerous. Tang Wei happily agreed. Then go and prepare. We'll leave immediately. All right. Very few people knew that Mu Ran was going to Voidless Empire. In fact, only Mu Angua went out to send her off. Her mother and little brother didn't know. Even when Mu Ran, the holy maiden, left the city gates, no one came to send her off. As for the assassin from last night, There was no follow-up explanation either. Mu Ran was a little disappointed. However, what she cared about was the commoners. Everything else could be ignored. In the back garden of the palace, King Feng Yongzhang was currently admiring flowers with Ding Wenba following behind him. A young eunuch stood respectfully beside Feng Yongzhang and whispered a few words. "Your Majesty, I presume that the Holy Maiden has already left the city," Ding Wenba said respectfully. Feng Yongzhang held onto a pair of scissors and slowly trimmed the flowers. "Who sent the assassin yesterday?" "It has been confirmed, it's Xuanzhong Kingdom. That old fart. He even wanted to assassinate my Holy Maiden and frame me. He deserves death." Feng Yongzhang ruthlessly threw the pair of scissors onto the ground. The palace maids in the surroundings all knelt down. If Mu Ran had died in Gouda Principality yesterday, Tianliang sect definitely wouldn't let the matter rest. They might even vent their anger on Gouda Principality, and the consequences would be rather severe. "Your Majesty, please quell your anger. Fortunately, the Holy Maiden is fine," Ding Wenba said softly. His words were naturally meant for the palace maids in the surroundings to hear. "The heavens bless the Holy Maiden's triumphant return. If the Holy Maiden doesn't return after a long time, I will destroy this Wuxia Empire." How could Feng Yongzhang not know this? He only hoped that the Holy Maiden would remain in Wuxia Empire forever. At that time he wouldn't even need to make a move, as Tianliang sect would destroy Wuxia Empire. "Long live your Majesty," Ding Wenba shouted loudly. The palace maids in the surroundings also shouted in unison. Being in such a position, everyone had to wear a mask and act. On the other side, Wei Chang and Song Konghong sat outside the carriage, while Mu Ran and Tang Wei sat inside. The four of them headed towards Wuxia Empire. According to the speed of the carriage, they might need half a month's time to reach Wuxia Empire. Wei Chang also intentionally slowed down the speed of the carriage. As for why, it was naturally to create an opportunity. But looking at Song Konghong's current state, he doesn't even know how to create an opportunity. He is simply a blockhead. No wonder Yu Hua doesn't like you. Which woman would like you? Chapter 762. Wasn't Tang Wei captured by me when I was chasing after her? If you want to chase after a girl, then you must be thick-skinned. If your skin is thin, then you should be single for life. It is impossible for you to wait for a girl to chase after you. Is your injury better? Mu Ran suddenly lifted the curtain and asked with concern. Song Konghong remained silent and nodded his head. He seemed to be very aloof. This wasn't because Song Kong was wearing red clothes. It was because of her personality that Yu Hua didn't like her. After all, every woman wanted to be cared for. Lai Gu expressed his concern, while Song Konghong only kept his concern in his heart and never expressed it out. Mu Ran didn't ask any more questions and returned to the carriage. Wei Chang shouted, "Idiot! This Mu Ran looks pretty good. Although her strength is not that high, she is definitely a good girl. She is definitely a good match for a fool like you." Tang Wei, who was sitting in the carriage, was also crying out at how stupid Yu Hua was. When a girl takes the initiative to show concern for you, you should at least show some gratitude. No wonder Yu Hua doesn't like you, you deserve it. Mu Ran didn't show any signs of disappointment. She just sat there quietly thinking about the problem. Seeing that Mu Ran did not have any disappointed reaction, Tang Wei was a little anxious. It seemed that Mu Ran only treated Sky Red as her savior and did not have any other thoughts. He felt that it was hopeless. The carriage slowly drove on the road, and Wei Chang reported the situation here to his honor. When Yi Hua heard Wei Chang's report, he was very happy and praised Wei Chang. A war is definitely going to start soon, and it is time for Wuxia Empire to shock Northern Liang Empire. This was just a small step for the main body. The path of revenge had just begun. Meanwhile, Yi Hua also inquired about Blue Sky Red's situation to see if there was any progress. When he heard Wei Chang say that Song Konghong was injured in order to save Mu Ran last night, this caused Yi Hua to feel a little gratified. At least this Song Hong isn't a fool. However, in the next moment, Yi Hua dispelled the thought that he had just had. Yi Hua felt that it was normal for Yi Hua to not like Song Konghong. With a personality like Song Konghong's, it would be impossible for him to obtain a girl's favor. However, Yi Hua was a bit looking forward to meeting that Mu Ran soon. I want to see just how capable this Mu Ran is, to be able to be hyped up by Wei Chang's words. On the first night, the carriage stopped by the river. Song Konghong caught a fish and Wei Chang started a fire to roast it. The four of them acted as if they were on vacation, and Tang Wei acted as if she was taking care of her little sister, causing Mu Ran to feel very grateful towards Tang Wei. She felt that Tang Wei was like her big sister and had a very good impression of her. However, if Mu Ran found out that the three of them were actually liars, who knew what she would do? In fact, all of the scams revolved around Mu Ran. The intelligent Mu Ran actually did not realize it. Perhaps it was because Tang Wei was too meticulous, causing Mu Ran to lower her guard. Of course, there was also Blue Sky Hong who risked her life to save Mu Ran. Being deceived by the enemy could only be said to be a lesson, but being deceived by someone he trusted was a blow. Actually, it was a good thing that Song Kong Hong did not have any interaction with Mu Ran. Once he did, Mu Ran would discover that everything was fake, and that would be even worse. After eating the grilled fish, Wei Chang and Song Kong Hong stood guard outside. Right now, Mu Ran was an important target of protection, and nothing could happen to her. Mu Ran and Tang Wei are resting in the carriage. Tang Wei, let your cousin come into the carriage to rest. The wind outside is very strong, and with his injuries he cannot suffer from the cold. Mu Ran said concernedly. What a considerate girl. Tang Wei had an idea and said lightly, Miss, don't look at that cousin of mine just because he is a wooden person. In actuality, he cares a lot about his face. If I go and talk to him, it won't be effective. I will go and talk to him then. As expected, Mu Ran fell into Tang Wei's trap. Looking at Mu Ran getting off the carriage, Tang Wei didn't know if what she did was right or wrong. I wouldn't have harmed Mu Ran, right? Thinking about it, if Mu Ran really liked Song Kong Hong with Song Kong Hong's personality, he might not accept her, and Mu Ran would be sad. In the future, it's better not to try and pull strings and let nature take its course. Let's see if they are fated to be together or not, and I can't force it. Song Kong Hong was sitting cross-legged on a big rock at the side and seemed to be cultivating. Hearing the slight footsteps beside him, Song Kong Hong opened his eyes. Mu Ran looked at Song Kong Hong's enormous body and thought back to last night. This body enveloped me, and at that time, it seemed to be very safe. Song Kong Hong, the wind here is strong, you should go and rest in the carriage. Cold wind would howl during the night in northern Liang, and it was indeed rather cold. Furthermore, this was a plain, and the wind was even stronger. After hearing Mu Ran's words, Song Kong Hong shook his head and continued to close his eyes, seemingly not willing to pay attention to Mu Ran. Mu Ran felt that Song Kong Hong's behavior was normal. Thus, Mu Ran didn't leave and sat on the other side of the big rock. Actually, when I was young, I didn't like to talk either. Mu Ran said in a low voice while slightly looking at the starry sky. Song Kong Hong heard Mu Ran's words, but he still remained silent. He even recalled that a long time ago, Yu Hua had also been like this, speaking her mind to me. Since you don't like me, why are you speaking your mind? Could it be that I, Song Kong Hong, am just a listener? I'm not willing to be a listener. Mu Ran didn't know what Song Kong Hong was thinking in his heart, and he didn't feel any abnormalities. Mu Ran seemed to be consoling Song Kong Hong, telling him to have confidence and not to lock himself up. Some children don't like to play with me, and even my brother doesn't like to play with me. He said that I am a boring person. Mu Ran laughed bitterly. My childhood is truly not that good. As I slowly grew up, there were indeed people who played with me. However, I know that they did it with an ulterior motive. As Mu Ran spoke, the tone of his words seemed to have changed. Originally, he wanted to enlighten Song Kong Hong, but now he was telling Song Kong Hong about his own matters. This kind of mutual deception is actually very tiring for me. Even when I was in Tianliang sect, I didn't experience something like this. Because of a heaven's will, it seems that everyone's opinion of me has changed. If I had known that it would be like this, I wouldn't have gone to snatch that heaven's will. Mu Ran paused for a moment. Why am I talking about myself? Didn't I want to enlighten him? I still haven't thanked you. Thank you for saving me last night. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you right now. Thank you, you are really a good listener. Mu Ran's last sentence made Song Kong Hong think of Yu Hua. I remember that Yu Hua had also said this sentence before. Song Kong Hong immediately jumped down from the big rock, then leaned against the bonfire and laid down. His meaning was very clear: I don't want to listen to you and I don't want to be a listener. Mu Ran didn't know why Song Kong Hong suddenly got angry. Could it be that he said something wrong just now? But it doesn't feel like he said anything wrong. Looking at Song Kong Hong, Mu Ran pursed his lips and walked into the carriage. Tang Wei also heard what Mu Ran said just now. She cursed Song Kong Hong in her heart. You have already lived for over 10,000 years, why are you still so childish? It's not like Mu Ran intentionally brought up your sad matters. Chapter 763. After returning to the carriage, Mu Ran was very calm. She leaned against the side and rested, not saying anything. Perhaps, Song Konghong still hasn't walked out of the shadow of the past few years. Most probably he still has feelings for Yu Hua. After all, it is a relationship of over 10,000 years, how can it be broken just like that? But no matter what, Yu Hua is already someone's wife and she is Lai Gu's wife. In the next few days, Wei Chang seemed to have increased his speed. This Song Konghong is really depressing. I originally wanted to stay on the road for a few more days, but this fellow is completely indifferent. What's the point of staying on the road? Song Konghong, who didn't know the truth, felt that this speed was fine. The further north they went, the colder the weather became. Snow also gradually appeared in the sky and very quickly, a vast expanse of whiteness appeared in front of them. In Kangluo continent, no matter how cold the south is, there is no snow. But in the north, there is snow for half a year, especially in the location of Wuxia Empire. However, the endless snow scenery was not bad. Occasionally, pedestrians would appear on the road, and they were all honest villagers. When they saw such a luxurious carriage, they would first be shocked and then kneel on the snow. When the carriage disappeared, only then did they stand up. However, their pants were already wet from the snow. This was how it was in Kangluo continent. After more than 10 days of bumpy travel, they were about to reach Wuxia Empire. Mu Ran pulled open the curtain of the carriage and observed the expressions of the pedestrians. She discovered that the pedestrians were all smiling and chatting happily. If this Wuxia Empire is a ghost city, how can there be so many people here and all of them are very happy? Seems like this Wuxia Empire should be a good country. I'm looking forward to meeting the king. Suddenly, a clamor came into the carriage from outside. What's wrong? Mu Ran asked curiously. Miss, come down and you will know. Wei Chang smiled. Looking at Wuxia Empire from this angle is very refreshing. Its grandeur is even greater than those countries in Heavenly God realm. Mu Ran walked out of the carriage with doubt. When she saw the scenery in front of her, she couldn't help but open her small mouth, appearing very shocked. Mu Ran felt that she had seen the huge Tianliang sect before, but she was still shocked by the scene in front of her. The surroundings were indeed snowing, but in the sky above Wuxia Empire, the sky seemed to have opened its eyes. The golden sunlight shone on Wuxia Empire, making people feel its majesty and grandeur. Compared to the Gouda Duchy, this place was simply too magnificent. The Gouda Duchy was like a rundown little city. Mu Ran was only looking at the sky. That majestic city wall was so dazzling that he couldn't even see the end of it. There were city towers every 300 meters. Because he was standing quite far away, Mu Ran wasn't able to see how tall the city wall was. But from this height, he seemed to be able to see the Wuxia Empire's royal palace. Among all the buildings, only the imperial palace was the tallest. The majestic building showed its prestige. The entire imperial palace gave off a strong sense of oppression, as if it was warning everyone. Those who obey me will prosper. Those who oppose me shall perish. Miss, we still have to hurry. We have to enter the city before nightfall. Wei Chang said. And Mu Ran returned to the carriage with astonishment. However, she was still looking at Voidless Empire outside the carriage. Suddenly he had a thought. Even if he brought his troops here, would he have any chance of winning? This was not the Lingtai country of the past. This was a brand new country, Wuxia Empire. However, at this moment, Mu Ran was starting to worry about this Voidless Empire. Would it attack other countries? From the looks of it, they are very powerful. The city seemed to be right in front of them, but in actuality the city was still very far away. After about 2 hours passed, the city walls of Voidless Empire could finally be seen. Right now, Mu Ran had already gotten off the carriage, and the astonishment on her face had yet to dissipate. Just now, when she was looking at the city walls from afar, they seemed to be normal. However, only when she got closer to the city walls did she discover. The city walls were actually 300 meters tall, and the city walls felt as if they were going to rush into the clouds. Furthermore, when she looked to the right side, she couldn't even see the end of the city walls. Just how big is this Voidless Empire? Mu Ran even felt that the materials used to build the city walls were not ordinary. Furthermore, the city walls were faintly emitting out the smell of an imprint. Just that, the imprint was temporarily suppressed. If the imprint were to explode out, the imprint would be able to cause a lot of damage. If one were to encounter an invader and recklessly attack without understanding the situation, one would definitely suffer a huge loss. The golden city gates that were 100 meters tall caused Mu Ran to be dumbfounded. Just how rich is this Voidless Empire? This is too extravagant, isn't it? Even the city gates are made out of gold. There were also the words Voidless Empire, which gave off a strong feeling of might. Everyone could only look up to it, and red flags were hung on both sides of the city gates. Looking at the hearts on the flags, Mu Ran laughed lightly. Seems like the king here is a good person. This place has changed so much. Tang Wei, who was at the side, shouted out exaggeratedly. That's right. Wei Chang also began cooperating with Tang Wei. Mu Ran observed for a while and felt that there weren't a lot of people entering the city. This place is so good, why are there so few people entering the city? Suddenly, an old granny who was passing by stopped her footsteps and said to Mu Ran with a smile, "Little girl, you still don't know about this, right? It hasn't been long since Voidless Empire appeared, and we just received the news about it. Furthermore, Voidless Empire has 3 city gates, and this is the side gate." Side gate? Mu Ran cried out in astonishment. The old granny nodded her head. "The main gate is on our right side, and we will be there in about an hour." Mu Ran, to be able to reach the main gate in about an hour, there should be another side gate at the side. Just how long is this city wall? It is indeed very long. For this reason, Yihua opened up 3 gates to welcome the residents. The city wall is too big, right? Mu Ran said in astonishment. "Little girl, Voidless Empire gives us a lot of benefits. We just have to pay a bit of money every month, and when we get old, we will get a pension and a lot of benefits." The old granny laughed a few times, then walked into the bright Voidless Empire. This was the first time Mu Ran heard of such a thing. Pay a bit of money, and when we get old, we will be able to get a pension. This is very novel. The 4 walked to the bottom of the city wall, and Mu Ran sized up the guards on both sides of the city wall. Whether a country's military strength was strong or not, one could look at the guards. However, these 2 rows of white armored warriors gave Mu Ran a very strong feeling. That tall and straight figure of the white armored warriors was not moving at all, that pair of tiger eyes were staring straight ahead, and even all of the white armored warriors were breathing at the same time. However, no matter what, from these white armored warriors, it could be seen that this Voidless Empire is very powerful. It has even surpassed Gouda Principality. Without any obstructions, the 4 walked into the city. However, they were still obstructed at the entrance. It wasn't really obstructed, it was just that they had to fill in some documents. Today, Brett was here to take over the shift, and he could already see Wei Chang and the others from far away, and he even saw Mu Ran. In the recent month, Mu Ran's name was very popular in the group, and everyone wanted to see just what kind of girl Mu Ran was. Chapter 764. Mu Ran also looked at Brett and realized that this woman was so beautiful and tall. It was a pity that her body was a bit petite. She really envied these girls with good figures. "Miss, what is the meaning of this?" Mu Ran looked at the information on the table. Brett was also bored at home, so he replaced Guan Yanxing today. This is the information that every person who enters the city has to fill in. This information will be added to the spirit tablet, and it will be used as a symbol of one's identity. Staying in an inn, doing business, renting a place to stay, giving birth to a child, all of these will depend on this spirit tablet to become a legal citizen of Voidless Empire. Hearing Brett's explanation, Mu Ran's eyes lit up. How did they think of such a method? When I meet the king later, I must learn some knowledge and apply it to my own country. "Thank you, I got it," Mu Ran said softly and began to write down the information. Wei Chang and the others also pretended to write something. Mu Ran took the new spirit tablet and said to Tang Wei, who was beside her, "This is really a magical place. Tang Wei, you can live here peacefully in the future." "Miss, don't you like this place?" Tang Wei asked curiously. Mu Ran looked at the street in front of her. It was clean and there were trees planted on both sides. Under the contrast of the green leaves, the whole city revealed a new kind of life. Mu Ran had never seen a city with such a spacious street before. The ground was spotless and there were even cleaners and patrolling soldiers. The faces of the commoners were brimming with happiness. Although the city was still rather cold and cheerless, Mu Ran felt that if news of a place like Wuxia Empire were to spread out, the entire city would be filled with countless people. This place will definitely be filled to the brim. This is going to be a great country. The scale of this country will surpass the other 3 countries. But at this moment, Mu Ran was worried. The rise of Voidless Empire would definitely cause the other 3 empires to become envious, and they might even join forces to attack this place. At that time, there would be no lack of bloodshed. Mu Ran dared to guarantee that those kings would definitely do such a thing. "Tang Wei, you guys find a place to stay first. I will go and have an audience with him," Mu Ran said softly. Tang Wei said worriedly, "How can we do that? We are already here, we must follow Miss Tang Wei. We had an agreement," Mu Ran said in a low voice. I don't care if something happens to Miss, I don't want to live anymore. When Wei Chang heard his wife's words, he blushed with shame. Your acting is a little too exaggerated. Mu Ran was also touched. She had only been together with Tang Wei for a month, but she could deeply feel Tang Wei's care. Tang Wei, thank you, but I still hope that you and Wei Chang can live a good life. Don't follow me and take risks. Miss, without you, Uncle Wei and I wouldn't even be able to enter the city. We can't repay such a great kindness. Miss, we will always be by your side. Why does Wei Chang feel that his wife doesn't seem to be acting anymore? She seems to have gotten into character a bit. Tang Wei was indeed a little immersed in her role and treated Mu Ran as her younger sister. Mu Ran also had a headache. Tang Wei's persistence made Mu Ran feel happy, but also melancholy. Tang Wei, Wei Chang, Zhang Hong, thank you. Mu Ran bowed to the three of them. Along the way he could clearly feel the care they had shown him. Wei Chang had a good impression of the kind Mu Ran, so he smiled. Zhang Konghong appeared very normal and did not say anything. Mu Ran was already used to Zhang Konghong's personality and did not say anything. The four of them walked towards the distant imperial palace. Even if they were standing at the same spot, they would still be able to see the tall tower on top of the imperial palace. Under the illumination of the setting sun, the tall tower revealed a sense of solemnity. Mu Ran was clearly right in front of them, yet they walked all the way until night fell. Once again Mu Ran felt that the number of people in Wuxia Empire was very small. Right now, Wuxia Empire was completely relying on Mu Ran to gain popularity. After walking to the outside of the walls of the imperial palace, Mu Ran exclaimed in admiration. This should be a city within a city, right? I feel that just a single imperial palace of Wuxia Empire is already as big as Gouda Principality. Furthermore, the degree of extravagance that Wuxia Empire has is already so terrifying. Finally, they walked to the entrance of the imperial palace, and Mu Ran's breathing became a bit hurried, because the entire imperial palace was emitting out a strange aura, causing one's heart to feel heavy, and one didn't dare to look up and could only lower one's head. On both sides of the imperial palace stood a row of black armored warriors. The aura that these black armored warriors were emitting out made Mu Ran feel even heavier. Furthermore, their faces could not be seen clearly at all, which added a sense of mystery to them. Mu Ran walked to the center of the imperial palace and shouted out respectfully, I am the holy maiden of Gouda Principality, I have something to ask of Wuxia Empire's king. The two rows of black armored warriors did not have any reaction and just stood there quietly. Even if it was like this, Mu Ran did not dare to take another step forward. I feel that if I were to take another step forward, these black armored warriors would immediately pull out their swords. After waiting for a long time, Mu Ran shouted out again, Gouda Principality's holy maiden requests to see the king. The golden gate of the imperial palace could be heard finally opening. The person who appeared was Zi Shan. Looking at the woman who was not far away, Mu Ran's beautiful eyes flashed past. Could this be the king's concubine? So beautiful. She is just as beautiful as the one I saw at the entrance just now, but that kind of beauty is different. Our emperor is already resting. If you have something to say, come back tomorrow morning. Zi Shan shouted out lightly, then walked back to the imperial palace. Mu Ran was slightly surprised. This woman doesn't seem to be the king's concubine. My God, such a beautiful woman is actually not the king's concubine. This is truly inconceivable. In Mu Ran's heart, such a beautiful woman would definitely be forcefully occupied by the king. Let's go and find an inn to rest first. Mu Ran said lightly. It is already so late indeed, we shouldn't have come to meet the king. However, I am truly curious and thus I want to see just what the king looks like as soon as possible. Tang Wei nodded her head, and the four of them went to find an inn to rest. In the imperial palace, Yi Hua was sitting in his bedroom, and Dong Huang Baiji was standing behind Yi Hua. Dong Huang Baiji's delicate hands were lightly pressing onto her husband's shoulders, while Qingya was sitting at the side and peeling an orange. Yi Hua, didn't you want to meet this Mu Ran a lot recently? Why is it that now that she is here, why aren't you letting her in? Qingya peeled an orange and sent it to Yi Hua's mouth. Right now, Yi Hua was already used to being served like this by his wives. This is how a wife should be, I should have done this long ago. Yi Hua lightly chewed on the orange then said, this Mu Ran is still a thorn right now, she needs to be polished properly. Others are serving the motherland and yet you said that she is a thorn. Qingya pinched onto her husband's cheeks petulantly, and Yi Hua immediately turned his head around and lightly bit onto Qingya's slender fingers. This caused Qingya's heart to jump. Even though we are already an old married couple, we are still unable to endure Yi Hua's teasing. Every time Yi Hua's teasing would cause my heart to palpitate and my face to turn red. What a bad fellow. Chapter 765. Yi Hua slightly sucked on Qingya's finger, then said with a smile, "Think of a good show tomorrow and test this Mu Ran. A girl risked her life to come here, yet you are bullying her." Dong Huang Baiji said with a smile. Yi Hua's gaze became serious and he said in a low voice, "Since you risked your life to come here, then you should be prepared to die at any moment. Don't Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji know about Yi Hua's personality? They are thinking of ways to test Mu Ran and see if she can join the group." Yi Hua felt that right now the number of people in the team was more or less enough. Thus, if anyone wanted to join the team, they would have to be the elites among the elites. There are still 2 idiots who are staying outside, and I have no idea what is going on with them. Perhaps they might be able to bring me a bit of a surprise. Alright, let's go back and rest. After being bored for so many days, there is finally something going on. Yi Hua stood up, then pulled Qingya into his embrace, then pulled Dong Huang Baiji into his embrace as well. It was obvious that he was preparing to roam free. Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji were already used to it, and thus they continued to let Yi Hua do whatever he wanted. "Yi Hua, do you know what you look like right now?" Dong Huang Baiji said with a smile. Yi Hua hugged onto his wife and asked curiously, "What does it look like?" Qingya said sweetly, "Tyrant." Yi Hua went into a slight daze then laughed out loud, "All right. I like this title." Qingya, Dong Huang Baiji. The arrival of Guda Principality's Saintess to Wuxia Empire had caused quite a bit of a commotion. After all, Wuxia Empire was also a vassal state of Guda Principality in the past, and the reason why the Saintess came to Wuxia Empire was most likely also because of this matter. However, seeing such a powerful voidless empire, all of the citizens seemed to believe that voidless empire would be invincible. The next morning Mu Ran woke up very early, because she planned to go to the imperial palace by herself. After all, this was a very dangerous matter. However, just as she arrived at the inn, Mu Ran saw the 3 of them. "Miss, where are you planning to go so early in the morning?" Tang Wei curiously asked with a smile. Looking at the 3 people in front of her, Mu Ran's eyes were a little red. She smiled and said, "Sister Tang." After Tang Wei heard that, she became a bit absent-minded. Soon after, she smiled and said, "Miss." However, Mu Ran didn't know how powerful this sister was. "If I acknowledge Tang Wei as my big sister, then Wei Chang will be my brother-in-law." What is Wei Chang? One of the 7 deadly sins, a direct subordinate of an honorable supreme. That was truly a position that was beneath only one and above all others. Thus, Mu Ran's unintentional actions seemed to be a direct ticket to the team. But that might not be the case. Because my current identity is all fake. Everyone was lying to Mu Ran. Mu Ran looked at Song Kong Hong again and sighed softly. The 4 of them arrived at the palace gate again. This time, before Mu Ran could say anything, the gates of the imperial palace had already opened. It's just that today it's soul separation. It was another beautiful woman. This caused Mu Ran to be a bit confused. There are so many beautiful women in the imperial palace. If she isn't the empress, then who could she be? Just how beautiful is the empress? Mu Ran is truly too curious. "Please follow me," Li Hun said lightly. He also saw the legendary Mu Ran and he gave off a feeling of closeness. "Thank you," Mu Ran said softly. Last night, Zishan had also rushed out to take a look at Mu Ran. Everyone was very curious about what kind of girl Mu Ran was. Walking into the imperial palace, Mu Ran felt a sense of oppression. And as she walked deeper into the imperial palace, the sense of oppression became even stronger. Breathing became difficult and even walking became difficult. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to feel it, but as a heaven's laws doer, Mu Ran was able to feel the terrifying aura. Just who is the emperor of this place? Walking up the stairs, Mu Ran seemed to be having a hard time, and sweat could be seen flowing down from her forehead. Li Hun, who was walking at the front, seemed to be very relaxed, and this made Mu Ran feel that it was inconceivable. Just how strong is this girl? I, a heaven's laws doer, am having such a hard time, and yet she is actually able to walk so easily. Tang Wei and Wei Chang were ordinary people, so there was no problem with their performance. However, Song Kong Hong was about to show off her acting skills. Learning from Mu Ran's way of walking, it felt very weird. Furthermore, the stairs were not just ordinarily tall. If not, how could the height of the entire imperial palace be displayed? After quite a while, Mu Ran finally stepped onto the top of the stairs and let out a breath. "I'm a bit tired. It feels as if I just went through a battle." Li Hun walked into the palace gate and shouted out respectfully, "My emperor! Gouda Principality's holy maiden has arrived. Let her in." Mu Ran heard a deep and steady voice coming out from the palace gate. Judging from the voice, it should be a man. In Mu Ran's heart, she thought that the emperor was an old man, and didn't expect that the emperor was a young man. "My emperor invites you in." Li Hun looked at Mu Ran and shouted out faintly. Mu Ran nodded her head respectfully, then slightly lowered her head and walked into the palace gate. Tang Wei and the others followed closely behind Mu Ran. Just after walking into the palace gate, Mu Ran felt that the panic in her heart was magnified infinitely, and her body couldn't help but tremble. Looking at the stone bricks beneath her feet, she felt that it was very weird. Mu Ran, who was walking forward with her head lowered, did not look at the two sides, and also did not look at Yi Hua, who was sitting on the throne. "Gouda Principality's holy maiden greets your majesty, long live your majesty." Mu Ran shouted out respectfully. However, Mu Ran only bowed down, while Tang Wei and the others who were behind her were all kneeling down. "Audacious! Why are you still not paying your respects to our emperor?" Lai Gu shouted out according to the script. The current situation was very interesting. The Supreme Overlord brought along a group of subordinates and lied to a little girl. However, this smart little girl didn't know that everyone was just acting. Hearing Lai Gu's words, Mu Ran suddenly calmed down. "Paying my respects to the emperor is the etiquette of a subject. I am the Gouda Principality's holy maiden, and the person I pay my respects to is only the Gouda Principality's king." "Impudent!" Luo Ho shouted out coldly and immediately released a wave of pressure. Mu Ran immediately felt that the pressure on her back was very heavy, and her legs were unconsciously pressed down onto the ground. However, Mu Ran still had her dignity, and as a weak heaven's law doer, she risked her life to resist against the pressure. Yi Hua sat on the throne and watched quietly. "Looking at the current performance, I barely passed the test." The empress, who was sitting on the two sides, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's expression didn't change. This is not the time to speak, and there is no need to speak. However, towards the girl below, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were rather impressed. A weak little girl actually dares to barge into Wuxia Empire, very formidable. The subordinates who were standing on the two sides couldn't help but nod their heads. Although the girl is a bit weak, her character is tough enough. Luo Ho immediately increased the pressure on Mu Ran, and Mu Ran's legs were no longer able to withstand the pressure. "This pressure feels as if it is being released by my master, and my master is a powerful king." A clear and melodious voice resounded throughout the hall, and holy maiden Mu Ran finally knelt in front of Yi Hua. Mu Ran clenched her fists tightly. However, facing such a powerful person, there was nothing she could do. Chapter 766. All of the subordinates were slightly startled. As expected of a girl with character to actually dare to rebuke his honor, her guts are not ordinary. "What? Do you have a problem with me?" Yi Hua placed both of his hands on the dragon claws and asked lightly. Mu Ran, who was firmly pressed on the ground, said in a tender voice, "It's not that I have an opinion, I'm just disappointed." Yi Hua, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were almost unable to hold back their laughter. "Who asked you to act cool in front of others? Look at what happened now, you are now unable to get out of this embarrassing situation." The group of subordinates remained silent. This seemed to have deviated from the script. They didn't expect Mu Ran to actually dare to say it. "Raise your head." Yi Hua waved his hand and had Luo Ho release the pressure that he was exerting on Mu Ran. Mu Ran, who was kneeling on the ground, felt her whole body relax, but she still maintained her posture as if she was very stubborn. "This emperor wants you to raise your head. Didn't you hear me?" Yi Hua said gravely. "This Mu Ran indeed has a personality. She is actually not afraid of me at all. If it was someone else, they would have long been scared to the point that they peed their pants." This time Mu Ran did not resist. She slowly raised her head and saw the curious emperor. The first impression that Yi Hua gave Mu Ran was evil qi. This man's appearance was indescribably stunning. His face seemed to be the product of meticulous sculpting. His handsomeness contained a unique beauty, and he was very young. This was different from the emperor he had imagined. And he also saw the empress. Although Mu Ran didn't know who was the queen, she felt that they were the most beautiful women she had ever seen. Their beauty couldn't be described with words. She felt that such perfect women shouldn't exist. When the three of them sat on top, they were simply too compatible. Furthermore, Mu Ran was also sizing up both sides with the corner of her eyes. There aren't any officials around. He also saw the three girls in the group. One of them was the one he saw at the city gate yesterday, the other one was last night, and the last one was the one who had just brought him in. Although they were also very beautiful, compared to the two women on the stage they were still slightly inferior. Furthermore, there were actually two children in this group of people. The ones Mu Ran saw should be Yi Zizi and Kai Yun. Their bodies were no different from children. There were even green and red, and scarecrows. And the undead. There were also many beautiful women. Just what kind of country is this? There are no officials, there are only this kind of people, so strange. Tell me which part of you are disappointed in me? Yihua asked again. Mu Ran let out a small sigh of relief. When I entered the city, the emperor admired you very much. Your system made this place very perfect. I thought that the emperor here should be a wise ruler. From your tone, it seems like I am not a wise ruler? Yihua asked back. Yes, perhaps you are a tyrant. All of Mu Ran's subordinates sucked in a mouthful of cold air. This Mu Ran's guts can cover the sky. He actually said that his honor is a tyrant. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were a bit astonished. Just yesterday night, I said that Yihua is a tyrant, and I didn't expect that this Mu Ran would be able to see through Yihua's true nature with just a single look. At this moment Yihua laughed. This Mu Ran, you have quite a good eye. To other emperors they might be very angry that others said that. After all, tyrant was a derogatory term, but Yihua felt that this was a compliment to him. Because what she said was very right, I was a tyrant from the very beginning, I never wanted to be a wise ruler. This Mu Ran was just like what Wei Chang said, courageous and smart. Your name is Mu Ran? Yihua asked faintly. Yes. Mu Ran replied, neither servile nor overbearing. Do you know that you have already committed a crime punishable by death? I know. Then why are you still saying it? I am just saying what I think. Mu Ran said lightly, seemingly unable to hear the waves that were surging in her heart. Yihua laughed lightly, then his expression suddenly changed as he shouted out, Men! Two black armored soldiers could be seen walking in from the door, then kneeled on the ground and shouted out respectfully, My emperor! Drag them out and behead them. Yihua waved his hand and said lightly. All of Yihua's subordinates were startled. This is already a serious deviation from the script, there is no such thing as this. Even Qingya and Donghuang Baiji looked at Yihua confusedly, seemingly saying, after waiting for so long, you are going to behead them? Yes. The black armored soldiers would definitely listen to Yihua. Meanwhile, Mu Ran, who was kneeling on the ground, still appeared very calm, seemingly as if she had long expected that this would happen. The two black armored soldiers arrived at Mu Ran, who was kneeling on the ground, and propped her up. Your Majesty, my family's young miss didn't mean to offend you, Your Majesty, please forgive her. Tang Wei hurriedly pleaded, thinking that this might be a part of his honor's performance. Yihua said faintly, behead them as well. After hearing what Yihua said, Mu Ran finally had a reaction as she shouted out emotionally, Your Majesty! This matter was caused by me, it has nothing to do with them. What's the point of you pleading for them? What qualifications do you have to plead with me, Gouda Principality's holy maiden? That is nothing more than a joke. Yihua said faintly. His expression was indifferent, no different from a tyrant. Mu Ran couldn't care so much, she immediately kneeled on the ground and shouted out, Your Majesty, they are innocent, if I had offended you in any way just now, please punish one of them. Holy Maiden? Then why didn't you think for them when you spoke just now? Don't you know what will happen if you anger me? And they will also be implicated by you. You only cared about your own words, have you ever thought about their comfort? You have disappointed me greatly. After what Yihua said, everyone seemed to feel that what Yihua said made sense. Meanwhile, Mu Ran, who was kneeling on the ground, looked blankly at Yihua, who was sitting on the throne. I have indeed neglected big sister Tang Wei and the others. What he said is right, I didn't care about their comfort, I only cared about myself. In actuality, this is human nature. Mu Ran isn't a real holy maiden, she didn't think that much, but Yihua grabbed onto Mu Ran's faulty wording and crushed the line of defense in Mu Ran's heart. Right now, Yihua was also a person who used his brain, he was no longer that skeleton who only knew how to fight and kill. With just a single sentence, Yihua crushed Mu Ran, to the point that Mu Ran started to doubt her own style. Holy Maiden Mu Ran, during this 1 month, I have heard of your deeds. You have been governing the country since you were very young, and you even have the title of a genius. You are the Holy Maiden in the eyes of the commoners, but after seeing you today, I feel that those are all rumors. You are very selfish, not caring about the life and death of others, am I right? Mu Ran had a blank look on her face, she was completely unable to refute Yihua. Right now, she didn't even dare to look at big sister Tang Wei and the others. Death is a kind of release for you. Yi Hua waved his hand, and the two black armored warriors lifted Mu Ran up again. In an instant. Chapter 767. Mu Ran, who was at a loss once again, looked towards Song Kong Hong. It seems that every time I am in a life or death situation, Song Kong Hong would always protect me without any hesitation. Even if I did something wrong just now, Song Kong Hong would still do so. Mississippi. Right at this moment, Tang Wei also came over and held on to Mu Ran. Meanwhile, Wei Chang, who was at the side of Tang Wei, didn't understand what kind of script His Honor was playing. A sadomasochism script, a damsel in distress script, or a life and death script. Mu Ran absent-mindedly looked at Tang Wei, and suddenly felt very wronged. Just now I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry, Sister Tang. Mu Ran, who had always been strong, was actually feeling wronged to the point of crying. Mu Ran was crying because she was wronged by Yi Hua. Of course, there was also their understanding. At this kind of moment, Yi Hua didn't blame Mu Ran and was still protecting Mu Ran. Especially Blue Sky Red. Miss, don't you think we don't know your personality? It's hard for people to not make mistakes. Tang Wei carefully guided. Mu Ran's life had always been smooth sailing, and she rarely experienced any setbacks. Even in the Guda Duchy, the king did not dare to rashly punish her because she had the huge Tianliang sect behind her. Mu Ran had neglected one point. This was not the Duchy of Guda. The person sitting on the throne was not her own king but a tyrant. If he wanted to kill someone, it would not be because he had a powerful backer. Even if the heavens were to back him up, this emperor would kill him without a second word. Song Kong Hong had no choice but to carry out His Honor's secret mission, which was to protect Mu Ran. This Mu Ran was about to be chopped. Could it be that he still wouldn't step forward? In fact, Song Kong Hong was also wondering if he should continue with the secret mission. When Mu Ran was lifted for the second time, Song Kong Hong decided to continue with the mission. Lai Gu, who was standing at the side, seemed to have understood His Honor's intention. It wasn't just Lai Gu who understood His Honor's intention. Everyone else more or less understood it as well. Is His Honor directing a plan to injure himself to gain the confidence of others? Yi Hua did not think too much about it, he just wanted to give Mu Ran a blow, that's all. This person's life mustn't be too smooth sailing. Only after experiencing setbacks would one know of one's own inadequacies. I, the Supreme Overlord, had also experienced setbacks before I woke up. This Mu Ran, who had been maintaining a calm state of mind the entire time, just now caused me to feel very unhappy. Mu Ran, you do have some brains, but in my eyes you are just a person with brains. If you have this kind of attitude, what use do I have for you? Do you really think I want you to join? What a joke. To attack my bodyguard in front of the Emperor, Mu Ran, your bodyguard's guts are just as big as yours. Yi Hua said gravely, and killing intent gradually spread out from his body. This is truly a group of people trying to deceive the pitiful little girl. They are all in the same group. Mu Ran hurriedly knelt down and begged, Your Majesty, Song Kong Hong didn't do it on purpose. He only did it to save me. You sure are loyal. How do you think we should settle this matter? Yi Hua asked back. This was also a part of the test. The test was to see Mu Ran's adaptability. The subordinates naturally knew that His Honor was going to start the examination, and they were truly afraid of His Honor's examination. This was especially so for Fushi, who unconsciously took a step back. Mu Ran quickly thought about it. It did not matter to her, but how could she save their lives? But how was he going to excuse himself from the attack? It was impossible. Your Majesty, I will use the soul of the heavenly path in exchange for their safety. Mu Ran had no other choice but to contribute his heavenly path. This was no different from sacrificing oneself. By extracting the heavenly Tao's soul, one wouldn't be able to live for long. In the end, one would wither and die. Yi Hua naturally understood what the Heaven's Path soul was used for, and he was a little astonished. They had been in contact with Mu Ran for about a month, but Mu Ran could actually use the heavenly Tao to exchange for their safety. It had to be said that Mu Ran was a girl of flesh and blood. Although she was indeed muddle-headed at times, her mind was still straightforward. In that kind of situation, a wave of wretchedness would have been the best result. This Mu Ran was still too upright. If Mu Ran was a little more tactful, how could she annoy her king? But it was because of her integrity that Wei Chang took a fancy to Mu Ran and strongly recommended her. Soul of the heavens, this is a pretty good suggestion. Yi Hua said lightly. Mu Ran heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had agreed. But this emperor doesn't want your soul of the heavenly Tao. This emperor isn't interested in that. Mu Ran, who had just relaxed, became nervous again. Your Majesty, this is all my fault. They only offended your Majesty to protect you, please forgive them. Didn't you just say that? This emperor is a tyrant, and recklessly killing people seems to be what a tyrant should do. This emperor is just being the tyrant you speak of. Mu Ran felt that she was actually speechless. I was the one who said all those words. This emperor is very formidable, to be able to defeat me with just a few words. What? Saintis is speechless now? Yihua asked faintly. My eloquence is getting better and better. With just a few words I was able to make this genius speechless. Yihua looked towards Kong Kong Hong, then looked towards Yuhua. This emperor has an idea that can pardon all of your crimes. Hearing this sentence, Mu Ran seemed to have seen hope. Your Majesty is benevolent. Now you know that this emperor is benevolent. Just now, you even shamelessly boasted that this emperor is a tyrant. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji snickered in their hearts. This Yihua is such a miser, scaring everyone to death. Mu Ran lowered her head and remained silent. I have learned a lot of things today. Seeing that this guard of yours is loyal and courageous, let's see how much he is willing to sacrifice for you. Mu Ran didn't understand. Yuhua. Yihua shouted out. Yuhua, who was in the group, went into a slight daze, then walked out and shouted out respectfully, Your Majesty, your subordinate is here. Spar with this loyal and courageous man and see how loyal and courageous he is. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard this. Let Yuhua beat up Blue Sky Red. This doesn't seem to be appropriate, right? Our relationship is already very stiff to begin with. If we do this, wouldn't it mean that we won't be able to contact each other even if we die? Right now, Yuhua didn't understand what his honor was trying to do. There are so many people here, why did his honor ask me to come out and spar with Song Kong Hong? The main point was, Song Kong Hong was only at the level of a doja at the moment. This was clearly a death sentence and Moonlight couldn't bring herself to do it. At this moment, Song Kong Hong was dumbfounded. He did not understand what his honor meant by asking Moonlight to beat him up. I don't understand. Not only did Song Kong Hong not understand, even Qingya and Donghuang Baiji did not understand what Yihua meant. In actuality, Yihua was trying to free the two of them from this stalemate. If there was no breakthrough, the stalemate between the two of them would never be resolved. Today, I'm going to make Song Kong Hong understand that this woman is no longer the woman that you imagined her to be. She was someone else's woman. She can hurt you. Don't have any more illusions. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.